Ladies and gentlemen, we will call the September 9th meeting of the Caroline County Board of Supervisors to order. I have asked Mr. Seeley to deliver the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Seeley?
Can we all stand? Heavenly Father, as we gather this evening to do the business of the county, give us guidance and help us make the decisions that will best suit and best help the citizens of Caroline County. And let's not forget and remember all those of 9/11 who 11 years or 13 years ago this week lost their lives in an attack that we will always remember and should always look forward to make sure that we take care of those that are here and those that were left behind with loved ones that were left in the loss. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Seeley. If you'll join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. Thank you again, Mr. Cully. Do we have any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, sir. We need to remove the Pete Davis recognition. He's still out of town. And then the printing of the resource guide, the social service director couldn't be here.
Oh, okay.
So I thought that might end up moving to October, but those two things.
Okay, that's agenda item number 8 we're going to remove. And we are going to remove presentation number 2. We also have agenda item number 7. Is a discussion of potential applications for VDOT revenue sharing. I think that's the only one, but while we've got our VDOT representative here, if the board doesn't mind, we'll move that up to right after his presentation. So, opening board comments, Mr. Taylor?
Yes, just one, Mr. Chairman. I had the opportunity a few weeks ago of being asked to come to the Emergency Services Chiefs meeting, and I did, and just want to publicly thank the Emergency Services people for the job that they do, because we realize that certainly were it not for the volunteers as well as the paid people, we would not get the service that we get. And in talking with them, they had concerns, and my suggestion to them was that, maybe they would find an opportunity to invite other board members as well. They mentioned, I believe, that you, Mr. Chairman, and I believe Mr. Seeley had met with them, sort of recently. And just basically they talked about some of their concerns, and I just basically listened, but again would like to just thank them for the job that they do, and to let them know that the board is aware of their importance, and we appreciate the job that they do. That's all that I have.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Mr. Black?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Underwood?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Akers?
No, sir.
Mr. Seeley?
No, sir.
Okay. I didn't have any, but again, I wanted to echo the comments Mr. Seeley made regarding September 11th, and whereas we honor those who lost their lives and those who lost their lives in actions afterwards, and continue that fight to make America the nation it's supposed to be. So, having said that, presentations, we have the recognition of Sandra Hughes, Master Deputy Commissioner Certification. And I understand all of the employees from the Commissioner of Revenue's office are going to come forward and support this?
Oh, a lot.
Okay. Many of them will come.
While they're coming up, I'll give you a 10-year history of one of your employees.
Wow.
Sandra began in the Commissioner of Revenue's office in November 16, 2004. She began working with state income and our DMV Select. It didn't take us long to understand the girl's smart, she's willing to learn, and she's trusted by our taxpayers. While working and raising an honor roll son, Sandra continued her own education. Due to her desire to take more responsibility, and the ability to not only complete her duties, but to always go the extra mile. Sandra's always done that for our taxpayers. At this time, she was promoted to supervisor and deputy commissioner. As she continued her education, it became clear, very clear, she was ready to work in an auditing field. Sandra was now enrolled in the Master Deputies program. The Master designation, which takes a minimum of 3 years, requires extensive education and governmental experience. The designation program was designed to enhance professionalism of local government officials and their staffs. It is to ensure greater knowledge and accountability with the citizens and increase statewide uniformity. That's something we're constantly working on, is our uniformity. Well, a few years have passed, and Sandra's still working. But by now, she has received her Bachelor of Science of Business Administration and Accounting. Well, that's not all. Last year, she received her Master's of Business Administration. Now in 2014, she's ready to receive and will her Master Deputy Commissioner of the Revenue designation from the Weldon Cooper Center of the University of Virginia. In order to receive this designation, she must meet a lot of criteria, which includes she must adhere to the practices of the Code of Ethics and Standards of Professional Conduct of the International Association of Assessors. She has to maintain policy on accountability in the office. She must go to seminars regularly and successfully complete college-level courses. She must participate and serve the Commonwealth as well as our county. And then she will undergo a site audit of all of her credentials. Now, you have to do this annually, so it's not easy to have this designation. During the last 10 years, she has been able to maintain a loving home with her big child, manage her duties at work, complete education milestones, and yes, her son's still on the honor roll. Sandra, it gives us all great pride to have you work for Caroline County, and we are proud to present to you your master's designation from the University of Virginia. Now, she's a master twice, so y'all watch out.
She's waited on me before, so I know.
You understand the complications?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you all very much, but you should be very proud of all of our employees. But when they reach this level, it needs to be recognized.
Well, we are without a doubt extremely proud of all of the employees in the commissioner's office, the treasurer's office, all the county employees. I was just in there getting a registration done, and it was professional. It was wonderful. I think you guys do a great job, and the customer service that you provide is wonderful. So that means a lot to people when they're paying their bills and going through things. So it's nice to see a smiling face and happy. If you would like, I'm going to ask if you ladies would like to come forward. Our photographer is going to take a couple of pictures of you. And I'm going to ask the family if they'll come forward too. So we'll do the commissioner's office, the family, and then maybe one with the board.
What is up there?
You could come up here, please.
Is that okay?
Please. We want to go in the corner? Oh, you pulling my chair out from under me? Wouldn't be the first time I just fell on my face. Come on, congratulations. All right, can we do one with the commissioners? We'll line the commissioners folks up here. and you stand over here with me. Come on, Mark, we're going to do one with her. You're going to line those guys up over there. She's going to do one over here. Yes, sir. For my campaign. I'm not stupid.
Oh, is that what it is?
I'm sorry. Yeah, do a couple more. I think my hair was out of place. Okay. Thank you. Now we're going to go in the corner. We're going to do Commissioner's office. So you go in the corner.
Go in the corner.
Mrs. Carter.
Go in the corner.
In the corner. You don't have to wear a hat. You're in the corner. You don't have to wear a hat. That's okay.
Okay, we can bring it over that way to my left a little bit. Some in the front, some in the back.
This is the
Okay,
fun part.
right there. Okay,
Over. Take 2
let's
steps
see.
over.
The two on my right, you want to move it out there, and then she can fit right in there. Okay, the lady on the left, far left, just, no, in the back, yeah, there we go, okay. Just so that's,
Welcome to our world. Just a little bit left, a little bit right.
all right, nice one right here. We're going to take a couple, kind of beat the blade. Good, one more.
She's not smiling anymore. All right.
Good, thank you.
Family? All right. I didn't know you were the center.
Uh-huh.
None of that really matters. That honor roll stuff, that matters. That matters. Sharon, you want to be in with the family? Come on, let's book in the family.
I'm grandma.
Sharon.
Oh, I'm sorry, where do you want me?
Oh, one inch to the
To
left.
the right, to the right, to the right. Now turn in a little bit.
To the right.
Not,
See? Okay.
okay, that's good. All right. That's all I'm gonna do. Okay, good. Let me, one more or a couple. And one more, yeah.
Okay, one more with the rest of the board, excuse me. Come on, gentlemen. We're just going to surround you with ugly guys.
I've never had that experience.
I know.
You almost called her.
All right. Jeff Black, you're in the back with me because you're tall. Calvin, you can go up there. Wayne, you can go up there. All right, now we can't see anybody. Just say to my wife. I got to go over here.
Mr. Thomas, just to the side of Mr. Akins.
Oh, I can't be behind Wayne.
There, okay.
I got to be in front of Wayne. Go ahead. Go ahead. All right.
Okay.
I'm sorry. It's about you. Are you in front of Wayne? Are you in front of Wayne?
Okay, Mr. Thomas, just an inch.
All right. I'm good. I'm in 3. I'm good.
All right, that's great. Okay. One more. Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Congratulations. Thank you.
Oh, my goodness. Somebody went over to listen to me.
Thank you so much for your service, Andy. We do appreciate it. That was our only one? Yes. And to the Commissioner of Revenue's office, again, thank you for your support. And I know it's not easy when somebody's going through this type of certification. There's some things that they have to do, so we do appreciate what you've done, and we definitely recognize the great work that's been done. So, Ms. Hughes, keep it up. Okay, next we've moved the resolution of appreciation. Now it's time for the VDOT report. Mr. Nelson is here, so Mr. Nelson will give us the VDOT report, and then we're going to move it.
Stand up the mic so people can hear you.
Good evening, members of the board.
Then we're going to move up to agenda item 9. Mr. Nelson?
All right, here to give you your update. First, I'll go over some...
And Mr. Nelson, can you move that mic closer to you?
Yeah, it's kind of pointed at the computer. There you go. Hear me now?
Yes, perfect, thank you.
First thing, I'd like to go over some meetings that are coming up on October the 2nd. We're having our fall transportation meeting at Germanna College. I would recommend that people from the county show up to that meeting to voice their concerns about transportation. We're also working with the county staff for the FY16 revenue sharing applications, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later. Let me touch on some of our preliminary engineering projects. The Route 721 bridge replacement over Beverly Creek. That project has design underway. We are moving towards implementing that design with having access across the bridge the entire time during construction, so that is moving forward. Some of the construction projects that we have going on right now, the 639 project is about 52% complete right now. It's scheduled to be complete in May of 2015, but we believe that the contractor will actually finish this calendar year. The Route 633 bridge replacement over South River, that is scheduled to be complete in April of 2015. And the 654 bridge replacement over Reedy Creek was actually completed on August the 24th, so that road has been reopened. Now I'll go over some of the concerns from the last board meeting. Mr. Black, you had requested us to look at the drainage on 639. I believe Mr. Akers had also requested that. The contractor has gone out and done some of the drainage work there, but we do still have an issue with the grade of the ditch, so he should be out there shortly fixing that grade issue. You also had requested the litter pickup on 639 and to look at some site distance issues. We had litter picked up about 2 weeks ago, and we have done some site distance trimming, but we also plan to do our second mow in October. So we should be mowing on 639 in October. Mr. Seeley, you had asked us to request a meeting with MC Dean to review the infrastructure around their facility. We've met with MC Dean, and we'll be coordinating with the county and meeting with them again. You also had requested us to look at the CSX crossing on Page Road. I have reached out to our new CSX rep, and I'm waiting a return on what planned maintenance they have on that crossing, and I'll keep contacting him until I get that info. Mr. Underwood, you had requested to look at drainage on Old Don Boulevard. Our staff went out there and looked at that area, and it's really flat, so we're having a hard time trying to figure out what to do with the flat area, so we're going to try to go and look at some of the drainage pipes, the cross pipes, to make sure they're open, to try to help move some of the water from out that area. Mr. Akers, you, of course, had asked about the drainage ditch, and like I mentioned before, we've tried to rectify that issue. Mr. Taylor, you had requested us to look at the striping on Macedonia Road, and that should have been updated by now. Mr. Thomas, you asked for a status update on the Belmont subdivision sidewalks, and that work will be completed at the end of this week. That concludes my report.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Nelson this time? Mr. Taylor?
I think you might have mentioned it, but in our last meeting, we were talking about 606 and the bridge repair, and it was talked about that one of the options might have been to close the road.
We got the communication from the county voicing their concerns about not closing that roadway. It has been sent to design staff. Now they're going to try to incorporate keeping the bridge open during construction.
We really would appreciate that.
Yes, we're working on it.
Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Black.
Yeah, I just have a couple. I appreciate, you getting on some of these things, but still, even coming to this meeting today, coming out of Lake Landor, I know you had talked about in the winter, we were looking at the site distance. We had a couple of big trees taken out. If you're looking to the west of Lake Landor, the site distance around those bushes and so forth, I don't know if you worked with the association.
We've been trying to coordinate with the association
Yeah,
regarding
it's still, because there's like a speed limit sign going the other way that you can't even see because of the trees. So, I mean, I don't think the distance you had in the winter or in the spring is there anymore. So if you could look into that, because those cars coming around that corner, if you're,
Okay, and I did want to give you an update also. We will be doing, it's called a high friction surface treatment in that curve, which will help with some of the issues out there also. That should be going on in October.
Right. And I appreciate it. Can you just let me know when you're out there? Can you give me a call when you get out there?
Okay.
I mean, are you going to go out there yourself, or?
To meet with the...
Well, like as far as the association, all about the site distance again?
Yeah, I'll get with my maintenance operations manager.
Can you
He's
just give me a
been
call on
contact.
that? Yeah, I would
Okay.
appreciate that. The second thing is, and I have called you on this before, the construction on 639 between 95 and Route 1. And I don't know if there's anything you can do, but a lot of times the crews are parking, if I'm, I guess it's a Commerce Way, if I'm leaving Giuseppe's or I'm leaving the Timbers, and I want to turn onto, either way.
Yeah, and I thought that issue had been rectified. If it hasn't,
Yeah, but there's still equipment being parked on the shoulder, so if I'm turning, I have a hard time seeing around that equipment to go out into the road.
Okay.
And that's kind of a little bit of it. I'm just concerned that someone's not going to be able to see around those big, heavy trucks and so forth that are out there. And plus, they've put like, there's been times when there's been piles of gravel and rocks and so forth piled right there. So
Okay.
it's pretty difficult to see.
I'll reach back out to my construction staff to make sure that they're
Yeah.
aware of that.
And then the third thing that Mr. Akers had talked about before as well, that retention pond, I think that's a BMP that you have on the right-hand side of the south side of 639 going towards 95.
Yes.
Is there eventually going to be some sort of guardrail there?
I believe there's talks of fencing going around there. I'm not sure if there's a guardrail in the plan for
On
that or
the-
not. I'd have to go and check.
When the road is complete, there's not going to be a guardrail?
I'm not sure.
Because that's a significant drop, that's a significant drop-off between...
Right now, I can't really say because
Okay.
I haven't memorized the plans, but I can check.
Can
on
you check
for
that? Thank you.
That's it, Mr. Barnes?
That's it, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Nelson, as you follow up on those, would you just make sure Mr. Cully gets a copy of your follow-up so he
Okay.
can send it to the rest of the board?
Will do.
Just so we don't have 6 different people saying what's the status. Mr. Underwood?
Mr. Nelson, just wanted to relay thank you for the signage at the end of Ruther Glen Road and Signboard Road. That's been trouble. I think you guys have done an outstanding job of making sure people understand.
Yeah, we've been working with the citizens on that, trying to come up with different ideas.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Akers?
I just want to say thank you. The resurfacing that took place from Route 1 going west on 639, that really improved that area and the looks as well as the driving. And I'm going to appreciate what you do for us. You take care of the Madison District pretty well as you do the others, and I appreciate that.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Mr. Seeley?
I've met with Mr. Nelson on a bunch of meetings, and I think we've got a great relationship with your office, and I just appreciate it. And I have no other issues for tonight. How's that?
That works for me.
You like that? You like that? Mr. Nelson, obviously you can tell, and I guess we should make sure that Quentin's aware of this, but you can tell the board is very pleased with the work you've done, and we're very happy. I think I told him before to not send certain people back to us again, and we are very happy to see you every time you're here. It's great follow-up. We do appreciate it. The one thing you mentioned, the detours that we were proposing before, the one at Nelson Hill Road and the one at Stonewall Jackson Road.
Yes.
Will it cost more if the bridges are kept open?
Yes.
Will it cost the county more if the bridges are kept open?
No, but it could delay the projects.
Right, I think we got from 7 months to 12 months or 14
And
months. Something like
depending
that.
on how much it increased the estimate, if we don't have funding for it, it could delay.
Okay. Well,
Replacement.
in both of those cases, we got requests from the school board's transportation team that said it would be a hardship for them to do detours for school buses. So
Totally understand.
that's kind of why we wanted to do it. We may change in the summertime to give you a couple of months, but I think right now, if you'll work with us, we'll try to work with you.
And I think that's what we'll do as we go through the design process. I'll update Mr. Cully on what we're talking about. If there's any windows where we can close it down, it may help expedite some of the construction.
Right. Okay. All right, I think that's good. Again, great job. We appreciate it. That takes care of the VDOT report, and I'm actually moving agenda item number 7, which is the discussion of potential applications for fiscal year 2016 VDOT revenue sharing program. Mr. Fincham, you're going to start us off?
Yes,
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the FY 2015-16 revenue sharing applications are due October 1st to VDOT. We have identified a couple of candidate projects should the board direct staff to further investigate these and go forward. We're not asking for board action tonight. We're simply asking whether the board wants us to pursue the projects that we've identified as candidate projects. Mr. Nelson referred to a meeting with Mr. Seeley and staff at MC Dean. We've actually had several meetings over the course of the last 6 weeks or so. And at their request, they've asked VDOT to look at some potential road improvements to enhance operations at their facility. Mr. Nelson and his staff have come up with some preliminary cost estimates and identified improvements necessary to improve the service to MC Dean and the work that they do. Basically, we're looking at intersection improvements to two intersections, Route 207 and 684, as well as Route 684 and 656. Street name-wise, it's Rogers Clark Boulevard and Dry Bridge Road, and then Dry Bridge Road and Coleman Mill Road, as well as upgrading Dry Bridge Road and widening that road between those two intersections. It's due to the equipment that they have coming in and out of the facility. Those estimates in total are roughly $3.4 million, of which the local match would be roughly half of that. The second project is what I would call as Phase 2 of the Route 639 improvements. Phase 1 is ongoing right now. Phase 2 would encompass the area from the interchange back to Route 1. As part of that, we would look at signalization improvements to the north and southbound off-ramps at 95, a right turn lane, and re-signalizing the Route 1 639 intersection. If you remember the current project, we were not able to get the right turn lane in. Phase 2 would help with that and actually provide a left through and a right turn lane as you go west on Route 639 at the Route 1 intersection. And we would also look at some lane improvements, channelizing traffic flow between 95 and Route 1, kind of pick up where we left off with the Phase 1 and extend that on west, on east towards the I-95 interchange. We have a preliminary cost estimate of that project of between $3.7 and $4.2 million. Again, the county's match of that would be half that amount. Mr. Wilson in Economic Development is working on some concepts for local, to meet the local match requirements. And really all at this point in time is we're seeking direction from the board as to whether you want us to continue pursuing and evaluating the two options or two candidate projects that the board, that we've provided the board tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Fincham. And if the board's action is to authorize staff to continue looking at those options, that would be okay with VDOT because we would make your October 1st deadline? Okay.
We would intend on coming back to the board at the 23rd with the details, including funding recommendations for the board's consideration, and ask the board to formally approve one or both projects, or neither of the projects at that time.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Fincham or for Mr. Nelson at this time? Mr. Akers?
Only question was to Mr. Fincham on the MC Dean match, or the improvements to that area. Is there any discussion about who would help with the match on that project?
We, through economic development, are looking at that
well.
match source. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Ms. Taylor, no questions?
No.
Okay. At this time, a motion to, do you have a question?
No,
Okay.
sir.
It would be appropriate to give a motion to authorize staff to continue looking at these options.
Mr.
So
Chairman.
moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Akers, seconded by Mr. Black. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously, so we will move forward with those. We'll, I guess we'll confirm it at our meeting on the 23rd, and then we'll be in time for the VDOT October 1st deadline. Thank you, Mr. Nelson, again. And if you could move us up to the top of the list, we'd appreciate it. Okay, that was VDOT Department of Fire and Rescue Recruitment and Retention Update. Chief Loftus, how are you doing? Are these for us? Fire and Rescue. Ooh, these are big.
Y'all set?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. I'd like to take a few minutes of your time and talk to you about some of the improvements going on in the Department of Fire Rescue as it pertains to the retention and recruitment of our most valued asset, our personnel. Approximately 6 months ago, the county was extremely fortunate, and we hired Robert Eby as our part-time retention and recruitment officer. Bobby is a volunteer, has been a volunteer, is a retired firefighter from a combination system very similar to ours, as well as an ordained minister. Since coming on board, Bobby has increased our department's social media presence, our physical presence at local events, as well as developed a series of programs, which he's going to talk about, that highlight the department and really try to bring volunteers into our system and retain both career and volunteers that we already do have. I'm very proud to introduce Mr. Robert Eby. It's all yours, Mike.
Thank you, Chief. If it's all right, I'll show the video at the end, because I got to be able to find it back on the computer. But I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for allowing me to address you tonight. Recruitment and retention of volunteer firefighters and emergency medical technicians is the lifeblood of the volunteer system, as you well know. Being a volunteer firefighter or EMT is a commitment that many in our community has made and continue to make, but we must have a constant and increased flow of applications if the system is to be maintained. This is not just an issue in Caroline County, as you can imagine, but is throughout the United States. In the effort to retain our volunteers, we've put together a benefit package that includes receiving a departmental challenge coin when the volunteers complete the required training requirements, and I think Chief Loftus has given you each one of those coins tonight. When the member has volunteered 20 hours of their time per month, they receive a stipend that was generously implemented by this board, but with the stipend, the department, pending a funding request, would like to issue these active volunteers a uniform, including 2 shirts, a pair of pants, a baseball hat. The issuing of the uniforms to the volunteers would build unity, camaraderie, and pride within the volunteer system. The rest of their benefit package includes a volunteer retirement package called VOLSAP. They do receive a 20% discount at the YMCA license plates and also tuition reimbursement. We also have an orientation program that each new member participates in, introducing them to the fire and EMS service. We will be giving them a T-shirt as part of this program to encourage their participation and let them know of their value to the system. In an effort to recruit new volunteers, we have or are planning on doing the following. First, we actually contracted to have a professionally produced and filmed video, which I'll be showing you in a minute. You'll see in the video that most of it, we do have one career person talking, but that was at the request of the filmmaker. But it's the volunteers from all walks of life, men, women, black, white, pretty much anybody we could, we wanted to cast a wide net to the whole community. If any of you have been to the convenience centers recently, within the last Tuesday, we hung 4x4 banners up at each convenience center. The idea behind that, when I came to Caroline, I realized everybody uses those convenience centers, so it's a funnel, and everybody will see our signs as they funnel through there. and those will be up for the month of September and October. We've increased our social media presence. Obviously, we're reaching out to people that are in the late teens, early 20s, or even in their late 20s, and we've increased our Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and we even have a Google Plus account, believe it or not. We have created a church resource package. The volunteers requested that we do that. Essentially, it's something that they could put in their bulletin or project on the screen. There's also a letter, and our videos included in that package. We've purchased 300 footballs that will be thrown by the cheerleaders at the homecoming game that has our hashtag, it says Go Cavs, and has our hashtag CCFR, join our team. We're also forming a recruitment team with the intention of creating a culture of recruitment within the volunteer departments, with the idea that they're going to be the biggest recruiting mechanism that we have, or the individual stations. And so we're creating a recruiting team that I'm hoping to meet monthly. We'll start that September 26th. Last month we were highlighted by WRIC in Richmond during their Job Watch program for the volunteer position, and they reached out to us having seen our video, and we sent them a little bit of information, and it was nice that they did that. We had 5,000 brochures printed and have brochures in every library. We're trying to look for ways to distribute them. We also have brochures. We'll have brochures at the Economic Development table at the State Fair. We've recently purchased coloring books for everybody from K through second grade, and this book will require parent participation. It's about the escape plan, if you and it includes our hashtag CCFR, join our team. We also, and I just actually had a meeting today, we're looking at possibly doing a radio advertisement in 2015. We've had a booth set up at Caroline High School, Career Day, Ladysmith Day, County Fair, and we'll be at on October 18th, we'll be in Bowling Green. And this is the banner we just ordered. It was at the County Fair. We used to have this big blue thing that took a PhD to put together, and this takes about 10 seconds. So it's helped us. And this is available to all the volunteers. I have giveaways and things that I'm making available to the volunteers so they can use it. And it comes in a carrying case, and it's very portable. So this time I'm going to show the video. If I can. And we did get a volunteer application last week that cited this video as the reason they came to volunteer.
This is on YouTube.
This is on our county website, on YouTube. We also put it on the cable access channel, and generally the widest dissemination that we could get.
It's on Vimeo, Daily Motion, you name it, it's there.
Opportunities and challenges that I've met in my career thus far as a firefighter and EMT. It's everything that I thought it would be and more.
I think one of the big things in the fire department is you have a lot of mentors. You have a lot of backgrounds, personalities that come together to help mentor you and turn you into the person you ultimately become. The fire department teaches you integrity, commitment, and dedication. It helps you become a better person, lifelong skills, and just grows you up as a person.
when we go out on the road, either whether a sick person or an accident. And if it wasn't for the help of the fire department and the rescue squads working together, we wouldn't get the job done. We're all out there for the same goal and for the same purpose.
I like going into burning buildings. I like driving big fire trucks. I like playing with power tools. I like being a tomboy. And as a female, it's important to me to set an example that anybody can do this. Size doesn't matter.
It's a great thing to get into, and it's something that you'll like to do. You'll find out real quick. It's a lot of adrenaline, it's super fun. First time you step into the firehouse, you can already tell the relationship between people there. It sounds cliche, but it really is a brotherhood. Coming in, I only knew one person, that was my brother, and at this point, I feel like everybody who's ever walked into that door is part of my family.
Went through the academy in 2012. My husband and I bought a house here, so we've been volunteering with Port Royal. I've been an EMT since 2005, so I love working in emergency medical services and giving back to the community.
Being in the fire service gives you an opportunity to build some great life experiences that will serve you well throughout your time.
I like to make sure we get there safe and make sure we handle the situation as safely as possible and make sure everyone is able to go home when they're done.
Once you get involved and you actually start to see what you're providing the community, it really is something that just helps build your character.
I've been very fortunate in my life in the fact that a lot of people go through their life and don't know what they want their career path to be. And as a child, I've always wanted to be a firefighter.
I enjoy waking up every day and coming to work for the challenge. Every day we get to meet somebody new and go somewhere new. Every situation is unique. For more information on how to ride along with Caroline Fire Rescue, please visit our website at carolinefirerescue.org or call Fire Administration at 804-633-9831.
Thank you for allowing us to play that for you. I think it's an important tool for us to recruit new people into our system, and it targets a younger generation that we need coming in the door. So, is there any questions for Bobby or myself?
Did you say that you produced that video yourself, or we hired a firm to do it?
No, sir, we hired a firm, Video Man Productions out of Fredericksburg.
Okay.
Gentleman's name is Melvin Brown. If you watch the Happy Fredericksburg video, if anybody saw that, went viral, he did that video and he did ours also.
Okay, okay. I just thought we had some really good production folks in-house. I was going to say we need to take advantage of that. But all right, any questions for the chief?
I just did have one. First of all, I would like to congratulate you on the production and on the great work that's being done. The question I have is, you talked a little bit about some footballs and at the games. Do we have, or is it feasible to look at something with the high school, with students, and trying to get our students involved in volunteering? You know, I know that there are some age restrictions and things like that, but some of the other localities, from what I can understand, have been able to work out some things with the school system and trying to get interested students involved, say at an early age, so, you know, by the time they graduate or whatever, they, you know, may be interested in either volunteering or as a paid person.
Yeah, I think there's some opportunities. We did several years ago try a high school firefighter program, EMT program, and discontinued that because of the results of that program, really. But there are other opportunities to get high school kids interested, and we'll certainly try to seek those out.
I guess my question is, are there some things that we could do as a board, or are there some things that you could do maybe with the school board and working with them, you know, maybe more directly in making this happen?
Well, we had a firefighter embedded in the school as a teacher, working in the high school, teaching a class. And one of the problems we have is the curriculums are so long and the high school periods are so short. It's very hard to do a ladders class or SCBA class when you only have an hour and you've got to set up, you got to get the kids moving, you got to get them in the gear, you got to get them outside. So teaching those kind of classes is difficult. Even with an EMT class in a high school is difficult. But I think there's other opportunities besides those classes that we can do with the school, certainly.
Okay. That's all of that.
Mr. Underwood?
Yeah, I'd just like to see a real concerted effort to try to bring that rescue squad back in frog level. Just really want that to be top of mind. Even though we had issues there, I still think it's worthwhile to continue to put that as one of the goals as you go through your recruitment process and you're looking at growing. I would make that one of my focal points. I think that's a needed service in that community. Thank you.
And that was when I think we had, as you said, some issues there. But I think the last big issue was the fact that they didn't have 10 members. Wasn't that it?
Yeah, that was the reinstatement. That was one of the things they needed to provide was sufficient membership to sustain themselves.
Right.
They did not have that.
Okay. So I think that's a volunteer effort for you. So you got a big pill to swallow right away. So, all right. Ms. Akers?
I'd only like to say that this does work. I had people over the weekend to tell me about they had seen this and that it was really a good effort on y'all's part and appreciated it. It took some thinking and out of the box, normal way we do operate, and so it's great. Appreciate this.
I'd just say congratulations on the video. I hope it helps.
Hope so too.
Okay. Gentlemen, great job. It really looks professional, looks wonderful. I didn't see the Carmel Church Volunteer Fire Department in there, so hopefully when you update it next year, we'll see some of those.
We need a building.
We got land. We need a building.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thanks, gentlemen. All righty. The next one is the treasurer, the continued discussion and publication of delinquent personal property taxpayer list. Mrs. Curran was asked if she would come back with some pricing on what it would cost to publish the list. I believe she has that, so then the board can make a determination from there. Mrs. Curran, good to see you as always.
Good evening, Mr. Thomas, board members, Mr. Cully. I believe that Alan sent the information out last night. I'm kind of wrapped up trying to get some information together for the auditors that are coming tomorrow. But we did find out that for the Freelance Star to publish the entire list, it will take about 5.5 pages based on like a legal font. And the cost per page was the $3,288. So it would be expensive to publish the whole list. Caroline Progress, they did it took some work for them to do the design to put the pages together, but they estimate that it'll take them 8 to 9 pages because the pages are smaller to get that much information in the paper. So their cost based on the 8 pages would be a little over $13,700. So again, it is pretty expensive if you want to publish the whole list. I looked at Mr. Akers. We've done a top 50, top 100. If you did 500, which would fit on a page, if you wanted to publish a page in each newspaper, the top 500 would get you down to where taxes were roughly $615. If you went with the top 1,000, it would only drop it down to like $367, but you're talking buying more ad space. But it is your all's decision. I think we could do or want to publish a page, perhaps do a smaller number, and then include the link to the website where we would publish the entire thing. We could publish the entire thing on our website.
For free.
For no cost.
Now, can you repeat that again? You said that it was 30,000 for 5 pages in the
No,
freelance stuff?
5.5, it's 18,000.
18,000.
18,000, it's a total
Okay.
of a little over 30 if you did it in both papers.
So, yeah, 31 if you do both papers.
Right.
And what was one page in
One
each?
page in each, the freelance was 3,288, because I'm assuming we're going to run it on a weekday, which is cheaper. And in the Caroline Progress, it was 1,714, roughly.
And one page got us, that wasn't the top 500, that was
It did get us to top
500.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Mrs. Curran to help us make this decision? Mr. Black?
You had sent an email out a while ago saying that there were, the disc that we got from you and the email we got from you on the personal property was about 4,000 something accounts, correct?
Correct.
And you had said, you had said a bunch of them were under $100, correct?
Correct. About 1,450, I believe, were $100. And
Did we get that estimation on how many pages that would be if they were under 100?
well, that would take
Take out basically, if you said, you said how many, 1,400?
but 1,400 would take out like 3 pages in the Caroline Progress and 2 pages probably in the freelance.
Mr. Chairman, for me personally, that's the compromise I'd be willing to go with. Anything under $100 we don't print, and that's where I would stand.
Okay.
I just think that we need to take a stand on this. We're owed $1.6 million, and so if you do the math, this is a total of 30,000. Even if we get 10%, we're going to bring in. If I have to spend 20,000 to get 160,000, I'll take that every single day of the week. So that's just my point of view. Thank you.
Okay. The downside of that is, though, we could spend 20,000 and still not get anything more.
Which is what some localities have
Have
said
said-
their results were, so I don't,
I mean, that's just both sides of the coin. So I'm not making a, commitment. Mr. Underwood? Well, Mr. Black had his hand up first, and you had your hand. I'm going to make sure I get everybody. I didn't skip him.
I guess my question, I'm still trying to make heads or tails. On the list itself, there are some delinquents for long periods of time still that we have probably will not collect because of closed
Correct.
businesses. But there are pretty good substantial amounts of money there. And that's my concern, is that the people that we really want to
You'll never
spur
get it.
on,
You'll never get it.
we'll never get it. And like Mr. Akers noted, there's one person on the list that's deceased because of record keeping, those types of things. So I'd like to see something a little cleaner before we start publishing. That's my comment.
Okay. Well, part of that is we were gonna make this determination and then give Mrs. Curran a couple of weeks to clean up the list before we actually published it, or maybe a little more than a couple of
if
weeks.
you know of folks that are, that are on the list that shouldn't be on there because they are deceased, then you can certainly, code them and remove them from the list.
Mr. Taylor?
Okay, and Ms. Karen, you talked about this once before, but as far as notifying citizens, we've done a pretty good job of notifying citizens.
We have
so
sent
far
out notices, yes,
that
sir.
that this is a possibility. Okay.
They've had one notice that this was a possibility. They just got that in July.
Okay. I guess if we decide to go with this, I was just thinking we are almost ready to collect the second half of taxes in December. Did we give any thought to maybe putting something in that bill at that time, saying that, it's a strong possibility, or one of the results of not paying could be a published name. At least that would be a way of ensuring that every taxpayer got something in writing, because every taxpayer is going to get a bill. And if we included something in that bill to let taxpayers know that there's a possibility that you will be published, or that you will be published if that's what the board decides to do. And then maybe in January, or after the bills go out, or after the deadline for paying them, then maybe we could look at publishing something at that time, as opposed to doing it right now.
That's an option. Mr. Akers?
Yes. I guess my question really hinges on Mrs. Kern as to how confident are we that there have not been, don't misunderstand what I'm going to say, but that there have been no errors in either the Commissioner's office or in your office as far as its process. And I'm going to give you an example. You sent us the real estate delinquent taxes yesterday.
Right.
And I went through it, and I saw someone that I knew on there. And I called up last night, and I said, hey, your name's going to get on in the paper. And they indicated to me they've been working with your office since 2010, I think it is, or 2011, in trying to clear up this issue. And you may know what I'm talking about. And it has not been cleared up. Now, it would be published in the paper, but from what I'm being told, I don't know how true it is, but I feel like it's fairly accurate, it all has to do with an issue whereas the plot number was, or the plat number was given to someone else when a piece of land was deeded off to that individual,
Right.
and the bill was sent to the mortgage company of the individual that built the house on that plot. And so, I mean, I just want to make sure that we aren't doing this. I want to make sure we're doing it for the right reason, number one. And number two is the fact that it is going to be beneficial for us to do this. I'm sorry, but I'm not really interested in just embarrassing people. That's just not been part of what I do and what I like to do and who I am. If we are going to legitimately think we're going to collect 10%, 15%, 20%, hey, I'm all for it. We need all the revenue we can get. But I want to make sure that what we are publishing is absolutely no question, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that that's current, accurate information. And those people legitimately, without question, owe the county, the taxes that they are being published in the paper that they owe. And that's my only concern.
Well, as far as the real estate, we would have to send notices to the folks that have real estate that their names may be published. I feel like we would have to do that.
I'm just saying, I'm giving you an example, and my question is, are there any, because I indicated to that person last night, you need to take your file and go over to Beth Curran's office, and sit down in Beth Curran's office, and talk to her about it to get it squared away. My only question is, are there any in the personal property categories that have some of the same issues? And
But in personal property, we have sent them notices every 6 months since 2012. So, I mean, if they didn't feel like they owed it, they should have gotten it straight.
Yeah.
However, since we started this discussion and, we've tried to increase our number of DMV stops and tax liens, and we've had numerous ones where we've actually, sent a lien to the employer, and they don't owe us the tax money, but they've gotten a notice for, 4 or 5 notices, and they didn't do anything about it until we sent the notice to the employer.
Yeah,
So-
and I understand, and that's what I'm saying is, in fact, some people will say, hey, I don't owe them, and so I'm throwing it in the trash can, and they throw the letter or what have you into the trash can. Shouldn't be done, but some people just do that. And that is my major concern, is the fact, if we're going to do it, I have no problem, and I will support the 500 names that you suggested, Mr. Seeley, at the last meeting. I'm willing to go with 500 names, or publish the top 500 names, to see what results we get out of that. If it's a great result, then we said, okay, we own to something, we move ahead to the next category. I still believe if we try to put in 3,000 names in the paper, 4,000 names in the paper, certainly the newspapers like us because we're going to spend additional money. But I'm not sure it's going to do anything to collect a lot of money if we put those many names in the paper. 500, it may generate some activity. Thank you.
My real concern is how can we get to $1.6 million if there's DMV stops, there's stops on their income tax returns, how are they getting licenses, license plates, all those things that you have to drive a vehicle if all these other things are in place? How do they get around it to the tune of, I mean, $1.6 million is a lot of money.
It is. Some of those are businesses that have the big trucks that they don't, the DMV stops are not effective on them. So, those are some businesses that are out of, they've gone bankrupt. Some of those are the ones.
Of our top 500, how many are out of business?
I'd have to review the whole 500 list, but I know the top few that are on the very top are out of business, or there's a couple of them in there that are incarcerated. So there's no hope of collecting anything from those as well.
Because it just really makes my mind reel when I think you can do DMV stop, you can't get a driver's license, you can't get a state refund if you owe personal property, and we're still 4,000 and some owners that still owe us money and are still driving a vehicle and still getting driver's license. And
well, we can't stop the driver's license. The only thing we can stop is your registration on the vehicle. So those, we probably got, I don't know, more than 1,000, probably 2,000 DMV stops placed at this time, and it just depends on how long they've had it registered, or if they go sell that car that we had the stop on and they go buy a new car, it might take us another year for their registration to come back around. So, it's, and the businesses don't get their state income tax refunds because they don't get refunds. It's mainly just individuals that affects.
I guess my other question is, how many would fit on one complete news page? I guess they're different for each paper.
500 roughly in the Carolina Progress, and a little more than 700 in the Freelance. But I think if you're going to advertise a certain number, you do the same number in both papers.
Right. Okay, thank you.
All right, Mrs. Curran, when we were talking before the meeting, $31,000 is the total to publish everybody in both papers.
Right.
Okay, which could probably get you another employee in your office if we were going to spend that much money on a one-time deal, which might be a better way to do it.
If we had another collector, that would be another person that could be, placing DMV stops or tax liens on a daily basis.
But the odds are right now, I don't think the board is going to add another person in your office.
I understand.
And I don't think the board is going to spend $30,000 advertising everybody's name. But if we had one page in each paper, that would give you an opportunity to kind of scrub a much smaller list to make sure we've removed the people that are deceased and things like that. But I think if there are businesses that are out of business, you still need to publish that, because some businesses come back in a different name.
Right.
So where's the board? Okay, does anybody want to publish all the names? I don't think anybody wants to do all the names for $30,000. Or do you, Mr. Black?
I did the compromise. I said I do the compromise up to 100. Anything less than
the top 500?
No, anything less than $100.
So that cuts off 1,400 of the total, but that gets us 3 or 4 pages.
Down to 3,000 names, roughly, a little less than 3,000. So it would.
So that's like 6 pages. All right, anybody want to do just one page?
Mr. Chairman, I'm willing to support 500 names, top 500. And then if we find that that's successful, then next year we publish some more and you work it through. I just want to make sure that we're spending wisely and that.
Yeah, because we could publish the whole list on the web for nothing.
Yeah, and publish the whole list on the web. I have no problem with that. I will support that.
Okay. Anybody else want to do one? Mr. Taylor, your choice.
I'll go along with the 500 if that's what the majority of the board wants.
All right, Mr. Seeley?
I think we need to start somewhere, and the top 500 would give us at least a data sample of what kind of money we collect. And I think that if we collect 10% from that list, that means it's worth doing a second round.
Mr. Black, you've had your finger up for
The
a while.
only thing I'm going to say about this is the scrubbing the list. I mean, we've been talking about this since, when did this first come up? Several months ago. I mean, what was that? This came up in May. So, I mean, we've been talking about this since May, and this isn't the June payments. This is people that have owed, this list, this personal property list that you're getting ready to print is people that are owed in January, correct? It does not include June.
It does not include the June.
Okay, so these people have, and you put a notice out in the mail to these people saying that, and it was subject to being put in the paper, correct?
Yes, sir.
I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's possible that there's a mistake that's not going to be made. I'm sure there's going to be a mistake that's made.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's just no way to expect her to print 500 names and say, because at a cutoff point, you're going to say, someone said, well, I just sent the check in, you know, the day she sends the names in, and their name gets put in the paper. There's just no way for her to say, hey, the list is 100% perfect.
Right,
So if we're looking at that to say, scrub the list, make sure everything's perfect, it's not going to happen.
No, we're saying, I think we realize that there's nothing perfect on this side of the world. So we are saying scrub it again just to make sure. We've already had, I believe it was an article in the Progress that said the county may publish names of delinquent taxpayers. So if I read the Progress, I've seen that already. I'm not sure if it was in the Freelance Star. It was in the Freelance Star, same article. So I kind of know now if somebody died between January and now, we can't fix that, which we could, but we can't. So their name may get published and they're deceased. Their family may say, well, I'm sorry, he's deceased, we didn't know, whatever. There will be mistakes. But your original point was we are trying to be fair to all the people who do pay their taxes. So we want the people who don't pay their taxes and haven't for quite some time to basically shoulder their fair share. And that's the gist behind it. And I think what I'm hearing is there is a compromise to kind of go with 500 names first and then see if we can, if we do get a fair amount of revenue, that's a good thing. We'll continue. It's like Mr. Akers said before, we could spend $10 to get back $1, which I don't think is a good business decision. So I'm willing to entertain a motion in either way, and we'll vote them up or down as they come.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we authorize the treasurer to publish in the Freelance Star as well as the Carolina Progress the top 500 names to see what happens.
I'll second
And the
it.
entire list on the website?
And the entire list on the website.
You want to do the entire list on the website or just the same 500 on the website?
It's not going to
'Cause
cost
we're-
me anything to put
No.
them out there. I say put the entire list out there on the website.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously.
When will that take place?
Now, let us give Mrs. Curran time to scrub the list. So by the first meeting in October?
Sure.
The only meeting in October.
Yeah, well, we meet October 14th or something? 14th. Okay, we meet October 14th. You got 30 days plus. Clean
As
the
long as
list
I can
up.
get through the audit, then I'll be,
Right.
I can.
Well, I know you have
get
the
that
audit still to
going.
do, and you'll get the list. We'll do the same thing. You'll get the list to Mr. Cully. Mr. Cully will make sure the board members have it, and then you can publish it like a week after.
Okay, well, we've been updating it every time we run it. We run it so that anybody that has paid since the last
Drops
time you
off.
got the list
Right.
has been removed from
And
it.
and the people that have payment plans, they get dropped off too?
Yes.
those kind of things.
They are, if you have a payment plan, you're not being included in the list that you're getting.
Okay. Now, if somebody hears about this tomorrow, they see it in the paper, they're going to show up at your office and say, I need a payment plan. You guys work that out. I mean, you work that out, and then their name is removed from the list.
Correct.
Okay. All right. We're going to move forward. Thank you for your patience and your hard work, Ms. Curran. All right, we're going to move to appointments. Wow, 7:20. Okay. Appointments, we got Recreation Advisory Committee, both of you are working on those.
Yes.
Planning Commission, Bowling Green, Mr. Seeley?
Mr. Chairman, I have talked to Mr. Stanley, and he's willing to serve, so I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Les Stanley to the Planning Commission for the Bowling Green District for the next 4 years.
Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, motion's made by Mr. Seeley to reappoint Les Stanley to the Planning Commission, seconded by Mr. Akers. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Consent agenda, we've got minutes, warrants, and the Planning Commission schedule. Anyone want to pull anything from that? I like that one. Motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Taylor, seconded by Mr. Black and Mr. Underwood? Or was that Mr., okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. That motion carries. All right, which gives us 10 minutes before public comment. So we will take a break, probably 7:35. We'll take a 15-minute break and be back here close to 7:35. Okay, we will reconvene, and at this point in time, we are at the public comment section of our agenda. At this time, we are going to allow anyone who would like to speak to the board regarding any matter that is not a public hearing to come to the podium and address the board. So if there's anyone who would like to speak as part of public comments, please come forward and do so. If there's anyone who would like to speak as part of public comments, please come forward and do so. Hearing none, we will declare the public comment section of the agenda to be closed. Mr. Fincham, agenda item number 4, special exception 02-2013 for the Virginia Sports Complex. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your public hearing tonight is SPEX 02-2013, VSC Associates, LLC, owner and applicant. They're requesting an amendment to a previously approved special exception conditions associated with SPX 05-2009, specifically to extend the time limit that was conditioned on that special exception permit to connect to the county's public sewer system. The original application was to amend 2 conditions. One was the paving of the road back into the sports complex, as well as condition 19, which is the utility connection. The applicant has since paved the access road all the way back to the first parking area at the sports complex, leaving the only issue for the board's consideration is the requested amendment to condition 19. A little bit of history. When the sports complex was originally approved, an on-site sewage disposal system was proposed to be constructed. They intended to use spray irrigation to help water the ball fields at the park. They could not get health department approval for the spray irrigation system and the watering system that they have to water the baseball fields. They just couldn't get health department approval for both systems. In the interim, the then applicant, HAT, was allowed to connect to the used temporary pump and haul, which the applicant is still using on site today to meet their sewage disposal needs until the permanent resolution of the sewage disposal is resolved. In 2009, the then owner came to the Board of Supervisors and requested an amendment to give them additional time to connect to the public sewer system. After the special exception was granted by the board, if you remember, the sports complex closed down shortly thereafter and was facing potential foreclosure when the current owner came in and purchased the property. As we go forward to this date,
the owner was working with staff, planning, and economic development, because there were some expansion plans proposed for the facilities there at the sports complex. Because of some other competition and other potential projects in the area, those plans fell through. So the applicant is here tonight requesting an additional time for compliance with the connection to the county's public sewer system, and to allow additional time to continue to utilize the temporary pump and haul that they are currently operating under.
That's it, Mr. Finch?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. And the temporary pump and haul permit that you mentioned is actually the county's temporary pump and haul?
Yes, they're operating under our permit.
So they're operating under the county permit. Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Fincham at this time? Okay. The applicant is here because I just saw him during the break, and we will allow him to speak. We're going to declare the public hearing for Special Exception 02-2013 to be opened. Is there anyone who would like to speak? And if you would, please come forward to the podium, state your name, and I guess in your case, the city you're from.
My name is Jim Radvani. I'm from the Princeton area of New Jersey. I do own the Virginia Sports Complex. I purchased it back in February of 2002. We've been operating ever since. We were doing fairly well. About a year ago, I was approached by a public company, very well-known, large public company, to come expand the complex, invest in it. Unfortunately, this non-compliance issue came up. For a couple of months, we went round and round, and unfortunately, the deal fell apart because there were some announcements in Fredericksburg, and a few things came to be. So I am talking to some people again. This time of year is when you normally get investors and rebrand a complex or change ownership, in that you then brand the schedule for the spring to restart a new season. The same group is back talking to me, and a couple other groups are talking to me. And I just didn't want this non-compliance to be an issue. I wanted to resolve it, so when I do sit down with any potential investors, we are in compliance. And, you know, I did the road, so we're good there. I just wanted to get a little extension to let the potential new investors research the possible solution to mitigate some of the costs and find the best solution for sewer. I know in my original application I asked for a 5-year period with a 2-year extension. I was talking to some people off the record that maybe 3 years to start the project would be more appropriate, and I'm open to whatever the board feels is more appropriate. Running a sewer line and connecting is a pretty expensive project. We've gotten some various quotes, and it'd be nice to at least let some new investors come in, help build the complex up, reinvest profits into some capital expenditures, which is normally what most groups want to do. They want to come in, put some funding into the complex, do some improvements that will help generate revenue, and then use that revenue and profits to then have capital expenditures and some other things. So I'm open to suggestions, but I'm thinking maybe 3 years would be a possible extension to hook into the county sewer system. We could do some research, possibly some other businesses may come into the area, then we could share some of the costs to then run the sewer line, and that is my request tonight. Feel free if there's any questions you may have.
We're going to see if there's anybody else who would like to speak, and then we'll come back to you with questions.
Great, thank you.
Okay, now the one thing you said, you've owned it since 2002 is what you said?
2012.
Yeah, 2012.
That's it.
Okay.
February of 12.
Okay. Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this matter? Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this matter? Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this matter? Hearing none, the public hearing will be declared closed. At this time, do we have questions of staff or Mr. Radvani? Mr. Fincham, if you'll come back. And Jim, you may not know that when you and I talked, I think in 2012, yeah, maybe it was 2000. Last September? Okay. All right. Questions for Mr. Finch and Mr. Underwood, this is now in the Reedy Church District. It used to be Mattapanai.
Mr. Fincham, I guess my first question is the cost to connect to our system. Now, what's that cost?
I'm going to go from memory a little bit.
Guesstimation is good.
Several $100,000. And Mr. Schiebel is here. We had some estimates that were prepared several years ago related to that connection to the county sewer system. It is not a short run.
I understand.
Recollection, it was the $250,000 to maybe $300,000 range. And Joe, Mr. Schiebel's nodding his head, yes. So rough estimate.
That's kind of my recollection.
$250,000 to $300,000.
In terms of the water usage?
They are connected to the county's water system. They are metered at Route 1. They have a private line that basically parallels the drive that also serves the county fair.
Okay. That's all I have for right now. I'll come back.
Mr. Taylor, any questions?
Yes, Mr. Fincham. You said to connect to the system, several $100,000. What is the cost of pump and haul to operate? I think he said 3 years, I believe he said.
It's $36,000 a year is his cost to pump and haul.
It's our estimate, it's about $36,000 a year to utilize the pump and haul. They have to have the tanks pumped. I believe they have two 1,500-gallon, 500-gallon tanks?
5 tanks.
5. So those tanks have to be pumped out fairly frequently when they have activity at the site, perhaps less so other times of the year. Averaging out, we estimate it's about $36,000 a year.
And so they've been using pump and haul since 2012?
No, sir. Back prior to that, probably back mid-2004.
But he purchased it in 2012.
He's been using it ever since he purchased it.
Right.
But they've been on pump and haul prior to that.
Okay. Okay, so basically from 2002 up until now, he could not have because he did not own it, but they've spent more than the cost to.
Yes, over that period of time, it would average out to exceed the cost of connecting to the county system. Yes, sir.
Okay. If the board should say you have to connect, how long does he have to do that? When would that occur?
That, I think, is the issue at hand tonight. Whether you give him 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, that's the actual issue before the board tonight, is how much additional time do you want to give the owner to connect to the sewer system?
But if we were to say you have no additional time, then he would have to connect immediately.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. That's all I have for right now.
Mr. Black?
Yeah, I just want to kind of continue on with his line of questioning. This one last question I'd like to know. If we make the complex say, all right, today you've got to connect, it's $300,000, do they owe us a check for $300,000 right then and there, or is there a way that they can be billed over time?
They would actually be responsible for designing and constructing the connection to the system. So they would actually design the sewer line from their facility to our current county system, and would be responsible for the cost of both design and construction.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Fincham, they do still owe us an availability fee if they connect to the county system.
That would be correct. That would be part of the total cost.
18,000?
68.
68,000?
Was it 68?
68,000. That's if they connect to the county system.
So the total. So we're now talking about 200, roughly 300,
300 and change.
350,000, between 300 and 350.
Yeah. The county's only going to get 68. The original condition said that they would actually connect to the county system or do on-site. So if they do an on-site system, we don't get that $68,000.
Yes, yes, sir. Let me step back one further. The original special exception approval anticipated an on-site system for both water and sewer. There have been several amendments to the conditional use permit over the years.
Right.
It was not until 2009, the last amendment to the conditions, where this condition was added to try to get closure to the whole sewer issue.
It didn't help.
Yeah. That was your last question?
Bring closure.
Okay. Ms. Akers, did you have a question before we get back to Mr. Underwood? Okay, Mr. Seeley?
Mr. Shebel, do we know what their water usage is annually? Okay. Here's one of my concerns is that if the connection had been started in 2009, the connection fee was $3,000, $4,000? Right, but what I'm saying is that
Would've been less.
the rates are going up, the rate has gone up since this initial start. Right, instead of 68. And I guess my other concern is that construction cost for this isn't going to go down. I mean, all I'm watching is everything's getting more expensive. And our pump and haul rate, does that change, Mr. Shebel, does that change periodically, the cost for that, or has it stayed pretty much the same?
$35 per 1,000 gallons is what the hauler pays to the county to use our permit.
Has that price changed in the last 5 years?
No. So we don't know how many gallons they're dumping on our permit, do we? Okay. That's how we get to the $36,000. That's why I was repeating it. You just thought I was slow, didn't you? I am.
The going rate for hauling, pump haul is between 10 and 12 cents per gallon.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so that's how we got our 36,000. All right, and the reality is, not to assume where Mr. Seeley's going or anybody else, but if you finance this over 20 years, the $36,000 a year you're paying for pump and haul would have easily covered the finance payments.
That's correct.
So, but from a business standpoint, you would be making a $350,000 loan or something like that. But still, from a business perspective, short-term versus long-term, it's much better to connect to the county system. So,
My other question is, can payments be set up for connection fees? Do we have a provision for that?
We do not, but that's something that, with board approval and public hearing, could be amended.
we do have the capability of waiving connection fees,
No.
which we do for, yeah, we do. We waive connection fees.
I thought we changed
We can
the
only
policy
reimburse.
Yeah,
up to half,
right.
up to half.
That's a number we can discuss at any
Okay.
point in time, but
I'm just looking for, because I just don't, I understand the capital investment. And I understand the conditions that you're trying to avoid in discussing this with other potential, I don't know if they're buyers or if they're clients. But my concern is that we keep stretching this out, and we a long way into this. And all I see is this getting more expensive under the conditions we're in now. And I guess we can talk to the owner at some point about.
I think that's the reality. Was that your last one?
That was my last question.
The same as, I feel pretty much the same way. And again, the math makes sense to just go ahead, get the loan for whatever the cost to connect to the county system is, and then you're paying that in debt service. I understand that the current owner would like to either sell or have additional investors come. Additional investors would come in, and they may change the name from Virginia Sports Complex to, Batter Up Baseball or whatever they'd want to do it. So part of that is their marketing. They want, any new buyer or new investor would want some assurance that we've resolved this issue. So we are at the point of saying we are going to hold this particular person to the letter of the law and say this is what you're supposed to do. We gave you 3 years, you didn't do it, now you have to do it. Or some sort of compromise that allows him to connect to the county system. If I were going to think of a compromise instead of on-site, I would say you have to connect to the county system, and we give you 2 or 3 years to connect to the county system, or to design your system to be ready to connect to the county system. So we eventually close it. He's got something to take to the investors and says, all right, we've got 3 years before we've got to connect to the county system. There's no on-site consideration at all. The county gets sewer users, which we need. It's kind of a win-win in that sense. Or we could say, you got to do something right now, and he could decide to do an on-site system, which would still cost him, and I'm sure the math is better than Pump and Haul too, but there'd be no, there'd be no county thing.
What's the cost comparison to on-site? I mean, roughly.
It's got to be something the same magnitude as the Dawn system.
You're probably looking at a package plant, some type of on-site sewage disposal system, not a drain field, but some type of package plant to treat it, and then a small disposal area. So you are looking at some cost. Off the top of my head, my guess is that it would probably be less expensive than having to run sewer, but I would want their engineer to provide us both of those figures.
Now again, on-site system does no benefit for the county.
Right.
I would concur with Mr. Fincham's comments. However, operational costs are going to be a lot more expensive. So over the long run is really where it's going to catch up. So short term, the investment.
For on-site?
For on-site, yeah, because you've got your on-site package plant that's going to have an operator, treatment, chemicals and everything, electricity. So you've got all those ongoing costs that'll continue on that type of a system. It's a lot larger system than you'd put in a residential unit that almost runs itself.
So really, when we look at it, and this isn't necessarily our responsibility, but when you look at the total cost of ownership for 20 years, it's going to be a lot cheaper to connect to the county system than it is to do an on-site system. Short-term, on-site system is best for the current owner. He could do on-site, sell it, and then that's it. He's finished. But the win-win to me is connect to the county system, understanding we don't want to kill his business. We don't want to kill the sports park by saying tomorrow you better start digging a pipe to connect to the county system. We could somehow work with them. The 7 years I thought was kind of ridiculous. That really wasn't going to happen.
There's also something the board needs to keep into consideration is future development in that area. We don't want to design something and have them design something today and something comes in tomorrow and you have to replace that line. So there is an article in the code that allows us to upsize that size and have them pay for the design of that and installation. We pay the difference, that delta between the size they need and what we need. So in the future, that line would be sized appropriately to be able to be expanded in the future.
Which I'm sure you would make sure it happened.
Absolutely.
So, you know, we're not going to have one line just for the sports park. We would have one line at the county expense, the extra expansion capabilities, but that gives us the opportunity for more to have. So I'm going to defer to Mr. Underwood. It's currently your district, used to be mine.
Yeah.
But I think the 3 years connecting to the county system is a good compromise.
Mr. Chairman, and I think the second part of your statement I agree with is to connect to the county. I'm not so sure I agree with 3 years. I was thinking more of 2 years, but I was thinking more of 2 years and then connect rather than 3.
Okay. Mr. Seeley just asked if we could hear what the applicant has to say.
Sure.
Jim, you want to try one more time?
Yeah, I think it was good information.
Okay, so we're at 2 or 3 years.
Well, as I mentioned, if you're a new owner coming to a complex, you want to deal with the issues of the complex, not necessarily deal with the issues around the complex. So, you know, we have some capital improvements that are needed inside the complex to make it a better experience than we have done. And 2 years is a pretty short time when you're trying, that's 2 seasons of maybe putting concrete in, running cameras so people can watch it on their TVs. There's lots of things you can do in a baseball complex that I think they'd rather focus on. And I just don't want it to be an issue if I'm sitting down at the table and have a great opportunity that can only enhance the county getting a better, maybe a much richer owner than myself to do a lot of great things there. So I don't want to make it an issue. And it was an issue last time, and to be honest with you, it cost me a very, I guess, a very large check, but that's okay. So I think, 3 years is a little more appropriate. I prefer 4, but I think I'd compromise at 3.
This is not Jersey.
And I think 3 would be at least 3 seasons to do that, and I think it's a win-win because, like I said, I could just say, okay, we'll just put a treatment plant there. It'd probably be the wrong decision for the long term. It might be the right decision for the short term. I think if we could do 3 years, that'd be a win-win for all. We'd have time to evaluate, design, evaluate potential other companies that may want to come into the area. Maybe we'd share the cost within the next 3 years. I haven't really focused on it at all, so maybe there's opportunities out there with Gary that other people may want to come in, and now all of a sudden we can share the cost of that line. It's much more beneficial for all. And I think ultimately hooking into the line for the county is the best decision for the county, and actually numbers-wise, by far the best decision for myself and the complex. So if we could do 3, I think that'd be a happy compromise. And then we could evaluate that, and I could go to the table with some investors and say, this is no longer an issue. And then once they get in, they can evaluate the complex and then evaluate around the complex what they need to do to be successful.
Okay.
Any other questions?
The actual condition we have says, as it is now, says he wants 60 months with an additional extension of 24 months. But then it says if public sewer is not available, the applicant shall install a permanent on-site treatment. So we're going to pull the permanent on-site treatment part of the condition and then say he will have X number of months to connect to the county system. That's fair to you?
That's fair.
Mr. Underwood, what's X number of months?
Mr. Chairman, again, we've already had 24 months already. So if we go to an additional 24 months, again, 2 more years, basically at $40,000 per year times the 4 years, you're getting close to what the cost to put that line in. So, I mean, we can sit here and vacillate back and forth, but the reality of it is, it's been a pretty good deal. I understand that we want to be able to use the system ourselves. Would make sense for the county. But I think an additional 2 years is a good compromise.
Ms. Akers, you have a question?
I guess my question would be, we originally approved this complex back in 2002, somewhere thereabouts, and we were sold on the idea of this would happen, this would take place. That didn't happen. So you came, not you, but someone came back to this board and said, okay, I need to change the special exception, I need to make some amendments to it, and the board agreed to make those changes. I just want to make sure that we aren't sitting here, whether it's 2 years or 3 years from now, having the same conversation, saying, well, I need a little longer. I would rather see us put something in place that requires, to be honest with you, the owner to do something, other than give me verbiage that we are going to make sure the sewer is hooked up in 3 years. Whether that's putting aside so much money a year, whether that's requiring the design to take place, or something. I think that we need to have something in place here that's going to guarantee this board and the county that whatever time frame we're talking about, whether it's 24 months, 36 months, 30 months, whatever the time frame is, that it will take place and we'll not have the same conversation again. Because nobody wins. The county doesn't win out of these types of conversations, nor do you win in the long run in these conversations. We keep bumping down the road the ultimate that's going to have to take place, and it's costing you $36,000 to $40,000 a year.
I will say, though, that sometimes, like I said, I put $60,000 into the fields. I put $100,000 into that road. Sometimes you have to pick your pain.
Yeah, and that road is really great.
When you drove in that complex and you needed a car wash when you left, that wasn't a good thing. So, listen, by design, it makes sense. Now, would VSC qualify for a $300,000 loan? Maybe not. Our operation results have not been tremendous. So, listen, it makes total. I'm an accountant by trade. Listen, I cringe when I pay. It's probably not 36, but $25,000, $30,000 in pump and haul. I cringe. But on the flip side, you have to kind of pick what you really need, and we needed good playing fields and we needed a road. So now, when new investors might say, "Hey, you really need concrete and this and that," I just want to make sure we're focused in on getting a lot of people there. Because if we don't get a lot of people there, it's not going to benefit anybody, because operationally it's not going to make it. We've done okay. We've done better than the last fella. But I think a rebranding and a public image can only help and enhance this. And I think having a national company and a national brand is better than Jim Radvani brand. I just think we need that. So I don't want to. I just want to. Listen. My first suggestion would be we need sewer. But on the flip side, I don't want that to be an issue when I'm sitting there with a national brand. I want them to want to buy this complex. And like I said, I sat there and it fell apart last time when it was an issue. We sat down, we had meetings, and went to and then it all fell apart. So I'm just trying to pave the way for success of the complex and success for this county. And it's not like I'm saying, yeah, I don't want to do that. I know we need to do that. It's just that sometimes financially and this and that, you have to pick your pain. And if, say, I didn't sell to a national brand, still Jim Radvani, well, I'm going to, I still need some other things in the complex, and I need to brand it and spend marketing and do things to grow the complex. And that's my only thought process.
Were you involved, Mr. Chairman, were you involved in discussions at all? Is Gary here?
Gary's here.
Mr. Wilson. I guess it was 2012. I was chairman. You and I met with, I've forgotten the young man's name that was the...
Lou Pursuti?
Who?
Lou Pursuti?
No, he was sort of the operator or manager of the complex there. Huh?
Terry.
Yeah, Terry. And you had came up with some ideas as to how to pay the loan back through tax credits and some of the other things, using the sales tax revenue or something.
Well, there are a number of different ways to approach it, depending on how much the county wants to get involved. in the process. One of the issues that we were looking at the time was a very complicated process, a program that's very little used. It was developed by the state Virginia Tourism Corporation. It involves a reimbursement of some sales taxes, for example. That would be predicated on new investment, and that's why we've been looking for things like hotels for that site that would help us be able to pay for some of that infrastructure that would be an additional investment in the county that we can then point to that sales tax and so forth and derive revenue. It's been difficult to find that end user. I'm pleased to say that we're making a little bit of progress in that area, but I don't have anything really substantial to tell the board.
So it would not apply to what he has there now and the investment he has at the sports complex presently? It would be a new investment.
A new investment would be required to make that formula plausible.
Now, Mr. Akers, if I can, if, as Jim said before, this new investor may want to rebrand and add soccer fields or other things, would that qualify then?
You would have to demonstrate an elevation in the taxes to make that case. It would have to be fairly substantial. And the reason we thought a hotel made sense is because it provided a level of investment and taxes that would actually start to qualify for that program.
Okay.
Now, the only reason you would not move along under this process of hooking to the county and running lines to hook to the county system would be your concern about not getting a loan or having to repay the loan, or what would be your major concern?
Well, the major concern would be that we continue to grow the complex and do well and be open and grow. I mean, we have to focus on, the business at hand, investing in the business at hand, and that is trying to get as many people as we can. My major thing here is just I don't want a Ripken baseball that come in with me and say, well, you got an issue here. Because that's what stalls a deal. And, Ripken baseball would make a lot of people come here. And, I've talked to Ripken baseball. So I just want the issue to not be there so we can talk to a better dad than I to come in here and keep developing the complex with me. Our public company is very much in lacrosse and soccer. We might build some more fields. But last time it was an issue and it just stalled the process. I don't want to stall that process.
My concern is we're going to be here 3 years from now having the same conversation, and I think that's going to be reality, and I'm personally not willing to have that conversation.
We have in front of us the actual condition, and it says applicant shall. We could make it say applicant must.
Shall is the legal term.
But
I mean, technically in 3 years, you could say you have not connected, you're shut down, correct? I mean, that you would have that right.
And I don't know, that would be...
That's not a win for the county.
Yeah, that would not be...
Yeah.
No, but it's not, we're talking the same thought. We need to hook into the sewer. But if a hotel would come along, great, they would pay for the sewer, and we hope to get a hotel. So I think there's different ways to do this, and clearly it's the right thing to do. So I just don't want to have a new owner, a new investor, a new partner, have a gun to their head to have to do this now until they can investigate it, do what they need to do, or evaluate what's the best course of action. Or maybe Ripken Baseball can get a hotel. Now the hotel's going to pay for the sewer. I mean, there's ways to.
But if you had 2 or 3 years to do that, and you got it to Ripken Baseball, and they bought a hotel, you'd be within the time frame.
Yeah, so I'm saying I was hoping for 3 years versus 2 because it just seems a little more reasonable. How I've owned this 2.5, it seems like yesterday. It just, the seasons kind of fly by, and that's my only thought process.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, as the gentleman says, what is reasonable? I think that's the question. I think we've been reasonable, and I think we're looking at a reasonable time. I do feel that 2 years is appropriate. I hate to kick this can down the road and face this in 3 years. And I hope you stick to your guns and do what's right. Because I'll dance with you right now, but I'm going to be awful angry if we're at this juncture in 3 years. I promise you, I'll be awful angry. I want you to be successful. So I'm willing to compromise, Mr. Chairman, and say we'll do the 3-year, willing to extend 3 years. I would make that motion that we.
And I will give you my personal, not guarantee, my personal best efforts to try to get this done, because I know, we had this meeting and we know we need to get this done. And I bought the complex, I think that special condition kind, when I bought the complex, somebody missed that one. So all of a sudden, we're about 6 months in and we're like,
Jim,
whoops, somebody.
You're at yes.
What's that?
You're at yes.
Oh.
Okay. Mr. Underwood has made the motion to make it 3 years.
3 years and
What
shall connect.
What we will have to do, Mr. Fincham, and I'll try to read it, and I'm sure Ms. Cosby will make sure I get it right, but
Mr. Chairman, if I may, do have one concern. Myself and Mr. Fincham did visit the site last week, and the current tanks, there are two 5,000-gallon tanks that are in the ground. There's about an 8-foot depth prior to the tank in the ground, and then the tanks are about 8 foot, so you're talking a 16-foot. There are 4 or 6 lids that are not secured in any manner. I mean, someone could actually walk on that, a child could walk on that and fall into these tanks. They need to be secure, and I would highly recommend a fence just around that tank site so that it's right next to a parking lot, the kids can walk right through there, and if somebody were to fall in there, it is a very hazardous situation.
Well, you and Mr. Fincham will directly take care of that situation.
No problem with that. I prefer that. Listen, I have insurance and
Okay.
I wasn't.
So you'll take care of that?
I'm not really here that much, so I didn't.
No, that's the normal enforcement, clean code thing, unless you want to make that part of the fence part of your motion, or?
I would like to make it part of the motion. That way we're sure that it gets done. Right, secure.
Let me make sure okay, so the first part will say, the applicant shall connect to the county sewer system within 36 months, period.
From the date of approval.
From the date of approval.
Which is today.
All the other language about public sewer and on-site comes out.
Right.
And then we will add, additionally, the applicant will secure his current system with a fence. And secure the lids. And secure the lids.
Right.
Okay?
To county specifications or something like that.
To county specifications or satisfaction of the utility director, planning director, staff level, at that case.
Yes.
All right? Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any more discussion? We have the motion before us. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. I'll do my best to honor that, okay? Thank you very much.
No, you're going to honor it.
Okay.
No, you're going to honor it. Thank you, Jim.
There is.
Okay. Agenda item number 5, Mr. Fincham, if you will come back. This is RZ 07-2013, Hardeep Dillon, and this was rezoning from what was the old Black store to apartments. Mr. Fincham?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, the board has held the public hearing on this matter. All of the items that the board raised previously at the board meetings have been addressed. There were concerns about parking, whether it met the standards. The answer is yes. There were concerns about whether the parking impacted the drain field and reserve area. The AOSE sent a letter to staff advising them that the reserve area identified was a general area and that the parking as designed on the GDP would not adversely affect the drain field and the reserve area. Staff has discussed with the applicant whether they would be willing to reduce the number of apartments from 5 to 4, which would be 2 on each floor, and the applicant has agreed to that reduction. That would also end up reducing the amount of parking spaces that you would need, which I think would also further address the board's concerns about potentially impacting the drain field and reserve area, as well as allowing for a smaller design of the sewage disposal system based on the reduced number of apartment units.
And the applicant had actually responded to all of these at our last meeting in July, but they got all the information in.
The last information came in after
we set the agenda.
Yes, sir.
So we couldn't include it, and then I asked them for an extension, and now we're here. So, all right, this property was the last commercial entity in the area, even though nobody else has decided to see fit to make it commercial. Mr. Dillon has ownership now, and that's what he'd like to do. Questions? Discussion? Mr. Taylor? Or should I start on this end first?
I guess a concern I still have, and it's not of this particular site, but there were quite a bit of concern about previous sites owned by this applicant. All of those complaints or all of those issues have been taken care of. Is that right?
I believe all the property maintenance issues that have been alleged in comments to the board have been addressed. Yes, sir. Again, however, those are not relative to this site. So you need to be careful about.
And I understand that, but I guess if there are issues in the past, and that doesn't mean that there are going to be issues in the future, but basically we tend to judge the future sometimes on issues of the past. So maybe that's not correct, but
that is correct.
That's basically what I'm saying.
Okay.
I have no other questions at this time.
All right. I'm sorry, Mr. Black. I meant to start over here, so I'm going to let Mr. Seeley go, and we'll work our way back that way. I'm sorry. Mr. Seeley?
I am still torn between whether to allow this to go from business to residential. I think that's been a concern that I've heard from a number of folks that live down there. And I guess I was looking for a compelling reason to make the change. It was bought as business. It's always been business. And I'm looking for the compelling reason to take it from business to residential. And I guess maybe the applicant has that, but I haven't heard it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Akers?
I have the exact same concerns that Mr. Seeley just pointed out. And I hope that's not going against anything that we shouldn't consider. I think it should, is the fact that Milford, I can remember growing up as a child, Milford was a little community, and it had a car dealership and had a grocery store. It had all those things in there, which made it a viable community. And I just hate to see that change, and this is probably, as you say, probably the last piece of property in that little village, if you will, that is zoned business, and I just have a hard problem with changing from business to residential. That's a monumental task for me to overcome.
Mr. Underwood?
No comment, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Black?
maybe I can't ask this, but is the applicant up to date on their taxes? And fees that is owed to the county?
There are, records indicate that there are some back water fees that might be due on another parcel. I have not found where there are any back fees due on the subject parcel.
The other question I had was in dealing with this itself. It said there is no, in the engineering report, there's no need for a backup drain field. Is that correct? A secondary drain field?
It's an engineered system. It'll, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, this is a dosing system, correct? So it's going to dose it over time versus the conventional drain field, which in theory should function better than a conventional sewage disposal system. However, if you recall, virtually the entire backyard was shown as a potential drain field and reserve area. It's my understanding from the report from the engineer, and again, Kevin, please correct me if I'm wrong, the entire drain field design will not take up the backyard. So there is potential area for a reserve that has been identified by the consulting engineer.
I don't believe I couldn't hear Kevin. You okay,
He said
Kevin?
the system design now would actually require less drain field because of your reduction in the number of apartment units if the board approves the rezoning.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Motion, I think
I guess the only other comment I would have, Mr. Chairman, is when the applicant came, we pretty much said what the issues were, and seemingly he has addressed those issues. Now, if we led him to believe that the addressing of those issues was what was being needed to approve this, and he did, then I guess that personally makes me feel like maybe we at least owe him that because he did what we said. Now, if we didn't do that, and I don't know what the board, I know what I said, I don't know what the gist of the board's thought process was at the time. But I hate to see an applicant come in, make a request, and we pretty much say what we feel the issues are, and that applicant takes care of those issues, and then we still deny them the opportunity. I do have a concern in that light.
I think you make a great point, Mr. Taylor, and I think in this and most instances like that, what the board is actually looking for is a complete application. When the applicant came and there wasn't a septic system, we really couldn't consider it as a complete application. So the applicant fixed that. And I commend the applicant and his partner for doing all the things. The county asked, I don't think anybody ever said, if you do this, we'll approve it. And I don't think that ever happened, but what had to take place was all of the concerns were regarding the completion of the application. You know, and I personally struggled with this application. I've met with the applicant, some other folks there. You know, he's done everything to make his application complete, and now we need to take action on that completed application. And there are still some other concerns that I guess he can't take care of.
Okay.
So, at that point, how does the board wish to dispose of this matter?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we rezone, let me see,
This is RZ 07.
yeah, RZ 07213 from B1 to business to R2 medium density residence.
With 4 units, as Mr. Fincham said.
With 4 units as indicated by staff.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay?
Nay.
Mr. Taylor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Black?
Aye.
Mr. Underwood?
Aye.
Mr. Akers?
Nay.
Mr. Seeley?
Nay.
I still have the same last business in Milford, and we're trying to turn Milford around. I'm going to have to vote nay, so the motion fails, or the motion does not carry. It's 3-3. Is there another motion? I guess there's no need for another motion.
There's nowhere to go.
Okay. So there's no rezoning. What's the status now?
It's denied. Requires a positive, an affirmative motion for the zoning to be approved.
Okay.
Therefore,
So
it
the
is
application
not
was not
approved.
approved, the zoning stays as it is. Correct, it has to wait a year to come back.
Or less if the board decides to waive that portion?
I'm not sure there's a
Oh, you came up with something
provision
new
in the
for
ordinance that
AOA.
allows for that, so I think it's a year.
They changed the zone. ALA completely came back under a different
zone. That's what I said, change the zoning.
Changed the
Okay.
zoning. right.
Substantial,
Oh, right, yeah, a
substantially
different
different
application.
application
Yeah.
is the terminology.
Yeah.
This can't come back for you.
Okay. All right.
Identical app.
That takes care of that one. Agenda item number 6, that's Mr. Parton? Or is that Mr. Shebel? I'm sorry. Mr. Shebel, you're doing agenda item number 6, which is the signs naming the courthouse for the late Peyton Farmer and Judge Benzer.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Hopefully at your place setting there is a one-page sheet with the mock-ups of both of the courthouses, and one side's got ABC and the other side's got 1, 2, 3, and I know there's a lot of discussions of whether we would name the facility with the judge name and then the courthouse. There was a comment about possibly putting the honorable, another one about putting judge in front of the names. In discussion with staff, it's kind of up to the board, but if you look at the J. Edgar Hoover, it doesn't say FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. The Lincoln Memorial doesn't say President Lincoln Memorial. So for us, a name, when you're looking at a name, would be the name. But it's really up to the board what you want to name each of these facilities. Hopefully that one of these will meet your expectations and we can move forward.
Okay, well, I'll go first. My turn. I like Judge J. Peyton Farmer and, Judge Frank Benzer, and that way we kind of know. The Honorable J. Peyton Farmer, he could have been a member of the Board of Supervisors, he could have been on the school board or something. That's my opinion.
I mean, you're right. The honorable just looks,
I like the name.
but I do agree that we should say judge. It needs to say judge.
I think Judge.
No, I agree with Ford on that one. I think honorable does not designate
I
as to
agree.
what
As
he
judge.
served,
Yeah.
the way he served at. But I just like the name
Yeah.
Peyton Farmer and Frank L. Benzer. I mean, that's, to me, that's...
But it doesn't
that's-
tell you what they,
No, it just...
Yeah, but again, I mean, you would assume that, but you don't necessarily know it was Judge Farmer. You just see his name on the building, and Excuse me?
Person may go out and-
Yeah, but not the honorable.
A certain person may go out and research now who he was.
Just by putting his name.
Without
J.
putting
Peyton Palmer.
the judge, but putting the honorable, they may go out and do the research.
Oh, please.
Spur some curiosity.
But he's not, but you don't really call the judges the honorable. Don't you just call the
Well,
judge your honor?
I was just thinking, yeah, I mean, judge is very casual, and so when I'm in court, I'm always saying, you're honorable. So I'm not a member of the board, but if it were me, I would either go with the honorable or nothing, but just to have judge is a little bit more casual that I would be a little,
But
I
in court-
personally, as an attorney, would be a little bit nervous.
But in court, you call them your honor.
Will you honor or the honorable? It's very deferential, so judge is a little bit more casual and is,
I'm saying that.
I've never gotten to the point where I feel comfortable saying, hey, judge.
I'm saying your honor at the traffic stop. Before I get- So, all right, what do we have? We got,
Mr. Chairman, there was discussion of a plaque also that we could put up. There's a resolution already that's hung inside that explains his service and everything, but there was a discussion, and the board never really approved whether we would do a small plaque that basically would explain why we've named the building what it is, his years of service, years on the bench, and we could do that underneath of there and inside the courthouse on the other one so that it explains why it was named what it was named.
okay, we'll save that as soon as we make the decision. So, where are we back? We're at three judges and two honorables?
The honorable. That was the one I had checked.
Okay, we have 4 honorables and 2 judges?
I'm just playing J. Peyton Palmer.
Okay, we got one judge,
Strip
one.
down version.
All right. Okay, where are we? We're at honorable, this is a casual discussion, so.
Yeah, we're honorable.
The honorable.
Calvin, you're honorable too? We got 4 honorables? All right. Wayne and I can't get together to make 2 and 4 better. Okay, so we're going to say honorable, J. Peyton Farmer, and I guess we'll add the plaque that Mr. Shee was talking about to explain why. I guess it'll go right next to the metal detector or something while you're waiting to come in. On brief history and things like that. The other thing is I stopped by there and I looked at the building, and I don't even know if I'm going to be able to see this. It could just be my eyesight, but I don't know, are we going to be able to see it from the street, or you have to be up close to see it?
The letters they're proposing now are actually 4-inch letters, which are larger than, if you look at letter C, that's actually a little bit smaller letter. The 2 above that are actually larger letters. We asked them try to make the letters as large as possible without overrunning the window and the edge of the doorway. So they're about as large as they can be. So they're going to be a 4-inch letter, so it's still going to be a pretty good sized letter. You're in a 25-mile-per-hour zone, so it's not any place where you're going to have high speed and you're trying to see what it is. If you look at the letter, it's a 6-inch letter for 95, doing 75 miles an hour. At 25 miles an hour, you should be able to see that from the road.
How tall is that 4-inch letter?
He also assumes our eyesight is great, yeah. All right, can we create we can create a cardboard mock-up.
We can.
Okay, so let's create a cardboard mock-up and make sure we feel like we can see it.
Let's just do this. Let's just do, because a cardboard mock-up isn't.
No, I mean just to see if you can see it, that's all.
It won't matter. He's already said we're going to overrun the window and the door frame if we don't make it. I mean, we're just going to overrun it.
No, we're not going to overrun is what he said.
No, that's what I said. 4 inches, for Mr. Schabel's description, we're locked in.
All right. This is the best we can do anyhow then.
Right, it's the best we can do.
It's 4 inches.
2 inches.
Come on, it's 4 inches.
Why not go 2 inches? It's got to be that big.
Okay. All right. The other thing, yeah, it is. The other thing is, we'd like to do this. There is one other thing that the board had already approved, which was the portrait for Mr. Morris. And I know Mr. Parton's been working on that. He had to get some information from the family, but I'd like to be able to do all 3 of these things at one time, sometime next month. So
Is the painting done?
No. No, it's not done. Part of it was the original that Mr. Parton got from the family, so we need something better to start. It's no staff issue, but we just had some problems getting that started. So, Mr. Shebel, if you could go ahead, and the honorable is what we're all going with for both of these.
Correct.
If you
Do we
go
need
ahead
a
and-
motion for that?
Yeah, we're going to do that, but we're going to ask Mr. Shebel to order those and give us an idea when they're going to be here, and probably
About 30 days.
30 days?
We can have them installed in about 30 days.
So maybe by the end of October, we could do this before it starts getting really cold and everybody can be outside. And then we're going to work with Mr. Parton and the Morris family to make sure we get a portrait to hang in the clerk's or in the judge's courtroom, thank you, before then. All right, now we'll take a motion on the honorable. Who wants to make the honorable motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Black, seconded by Mr. Taylor, that the naming for the courthouse circuit and general district will include the honoree's name and the words "the honorable." And if I may add to your motion that we're going to work with the Morris family to make sure that happens by the end of October, too?
So moved.
Okay, thank you. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. That motion carries unanimously, so that takes care of agenda item number 6. We did 7, revenue sharing. 8 is pulled. Number 9, is that Mrs. Schuler? Well, how are you doing?
She had to wait all this time.
I'm sorry, I saw you and then Mike was standing there. I would have let you go ahead. Before you even come forward, the last time I saw you, you said, was I going to say bad things about you the next time you came to the board? Well,
Yeah.
I'm not.
I'm
You
glad to hear it.
expanded in the Lake Caroline, Lake Landor area, so I'm not going to say anything. But we're still missing a whole lot of territory. But you did expand. That means I'm not going to say anything back. I don't know what they're going to do. But I try to keep my promises. So, all right, you're here to talk about the agreement we've got for Comcast and the county. We got the information from our county attorney. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, I thought that, the cover memo just said that I would review some of the major aspects of this with the board, and so I talked to Marie, and we just thought we could sort of go through, just hit some of the highlights very quickly. Of course, and then if the board had any questions for me or Marie, we could do that. And so, going through the agreement that's in your packet, I'll just say, I think I've been working on this agreement for as long as I've been an attorney, or at least an attorney working for Caroline County, which has been a very long time. And since that time, the law has changed significantly, technology has changed significantly, so I, for one, am happy to be able to present this to you, and hopefully you'll vote on it in the near future. But that being said, the definitions, should be self-explanatory and are based on federal, state law, so I won't spend time on those. I'll point out on page 6, the term is for 15 years, which is fairly standard. Going through the next area, on page 9, there's a lot of legalese. On pages 7 and 8, but page 9, the provision of cable service, some of the provisions that the board might be particularly interested in. Section 3.1, the availability of cable service and how it will be extended. So the cable services will be serving its current area, and then whenever there are 25 dwelling units per mile along an extension route, that's when Comcast would extend the service into a particular area. So that's how it grows.
25 per mile.
25 per mile, yes, sir. And then as far as cable drops, anybody within 150 feet of that line would get their standard cable drop. And again, that's fairly common within the industry and within our neighboring jurisdictions. I can't say that some, are better, but some are far worse. That's pretty standard. So.
And that's a requirement.
And that's the requirement.
So if I build an apartment house with 25 units in it, 3/4 of a mile away from where it is now, they're required to connect.
Yes.
Correct.
I would
Is that fixed or kind of fuzzy? If I get 24 instead of 25,
If you're less than a mile, it would fit the density requirements we would build.
I'd also point out 3.1.3. This is a provision years ago when the negotiations started with Comcast, but also with MetroCast. There was a particular concern by some of the members of the board as to what types of services were being offered in the county, and there was a concern that we wanted to make sure the residents of Caroline County had the same types of services that were being offered in, whether it was Spotsylvania or Richmond or anywhere else. And so in this provision, the Comcast is currently served on the Richmond network, and so Caroline will get everything that's on Richmond. But if it's served by a different hub, and Marie could probably explain this better than I could, but it's still on the Comcast network. So everything that's offered on that whole network, would be available in Caroline County to Caroline County residents. So hopefully we've addressed that problem.
And this speaks to some of the concerns that the board had when I came and spoke to you previously, in that we acquired the system that was in Caroline County from Mid-Atlantic Broadband, and it was an old SMATFI system, which is basically a standalone system. It was a satellite system that just fed a very small geographic area. The channel lineup was very limited. I think it was only 33 some channels. It was a 330 plant, and it was a one-way system. So there were a lot of, on the video side, a lot of advanced services like the video on demand and certainly the interactive guides, things like that, that were not available to the residents at all. When we went back in several years ago and upgraded the system, and we actually built fiber into Caroline County and connected it through our Richmond system. So that's the connection into our network right now. But because you're connected to the network, you have access to all the services that we provide to the surrounding areas, and those are all the advanced services that the residents at the time were looking for.
Can I ask?
Okay. You wanted to go through them first?
Yeah,
Was
go
that,
ahead.
you had more?
But
Go ahead. I'll wait till you
Okay.
get to this one.
okay. So that's generally the provision of cable service. Section 4, beginning on page 11, construction and maintenance requirements, which are extensive but should be self-explanatory. Page 16, the testing of the system, we believe is, what's appropriate under federal law. The system, on page 17, the system, facilities, and equipment. I mean, these are minimums, again, this was intended years ago to address, what kind of system we wanted. As you've heard what Marie has said, there's been an upgrade, so, probably it meets and exceeds that right now. But those minimum requirements are in there. Starting on page 20, the channels and facilities, what the board might be interested in, 6.1 on page 21 are the access channels.
Local access.
Local access channels. And what the agreement provides for is initially one access channel, and then in the future, if the county can show that there are a particular need that channel, is full, and we've got a need for up to 2 more channels, then there would be a potential for 3 channels. If this were a cable franchise ordinance under state law, the state would require up to 3. So, that's sort of the standard. So we don't get it right now because maybe don't need it, but if you do, there's a mechanism that the county could get that under this agreement, under particular triggers.
And they're going to show the county board meetings now on this?
Then there's my question is, how will we get the media? Where does the media go for that to be done? Does it go to Richmond for the local access channel? How do we get the media to
We have DVDs now.
Yeah,
that-
the
that we
DVDs,
record.
yes. The DVDs will be delivered to our Richmond, what we call, they will actually be played back from the head end. So the head end is the distribution network where we receive all our services.
So that's
and
in
do all
Richmond?
ours. That is in Richmond, yes.
Is it possible to do it in shorter than 6 months?
Yes.
Because it says 6 months from whenever we approve, and one of the big things I always get from the folks on that side of the county is, because on the Bowling Green side, we already have them, is it possible to do this sooner than 6 months, I guess was the question.
Yes, it absolutely is, and that was certainly one of Mr. Black's concerns also.
Okay.
And so we are currently putting the plans in place to be able to do the DVDs sooner rather than later.
Okay.
And then we also we're looking at some other technologies that may help to facilitate being able to do it a little bit more conveniently, both for the county as well as for Comcast.
Okay.
That was it, yeah, because we've been worried about that.
Yeah, yes, and that was one of the points I was going to discuss. Section 6.3, I would just point out the PEG Capital Support Grant. There's a provision in here, under federal law, Comcast and the county could work through some grants that might be available to the county. However, they're based on, county need that's shown. And so, that's not necessarily something that the county is able to do right now, but there's a placeholder in this agreement so that if in the future, within the term of this agreement, the analysis is done, and so it's determined that, yes, here are some opportunities where Comcast may be able to help us out. There's a provision in there that if it's, as long as it meets the federal law requirements and we agree that it's reasonable, that they would provide those grant monies.
Because
Grant monies for-
currently, MetroCast pays for filming of our board meetings.
They pay some portion of that.
Portion. So does that mean that we'd get maybe a portion from you all for filming as well? Is that what this is talking about?
The provision, not currently, the provision is that in the future, if you determine that there was a need for PEG funding, and the PEG funding, it covers specifically capital grants, so replacement of equipment, things of that nature. There is a placeholder in here for you to be able to come back and talk with us about it and come to some type of terms or arrangement to be able to do that.
Okay.
And I think there,
Can I ask a question? Do I have to have cable TV service to get access to your internet service? I know it's all bundled.
No, we do have bundled packages, but you can purchase the services.
But I could just get internet separately?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if the cable's by my house, then I could just say, I would just like internet, nothing else.
The infrastructure that we have built supports the cable television service, the internet service, telephone service, as well as our Xfinity Home, which is like home automation services.
Oh, right, you got Xfinity. Okay, that is you guys. Okay, okay. I'm sorry, thank you.
and just good to go back to the 6.3, that's really just a requirement that there be some substantiation. So, whatever need the county might have, whether it's additional monies for the videotaping of the programs, I think it's all, available, open for discussion. It's just Comcast, under federal law, requires that there be documented analysis done that the county just currently hasn't had done. Has MetroCast agreed to just, sort of provide those monies? Yes, it has, but, so I don't think Comcast is doing anything that it's not within its rights to do.
Yeah, most of the laws are in their favor.
Why, yes, they are. And again, 6.4 for Mr. Seeley, and for Mr. Black, that's the sections that are dealing with the DVDs, and so how the DVDs will originally be provided to Comcast, who will put them on, and how they'll be put on, and that they're looking for these other opportunities, including IP transmission over Connect Fiber. So that's something I think that what Marie's talking about that might be available. Also, I would point out 6.4.2 if at any point in the term of this agreement, it does become economically feasible that Comcast does run a direct fiber feed, and so that it's economically feasible for them to do so, then that's when, a direct feed, might be an option, to the extent that some other technology doesn't supersede even a direct feed. That's the thing with these agreements. You anticipate that, 15 years we'll get this great technology and we won't have to worry about DVDs or IP and then something else.
Right.
That
It
neither one of
allows us the flexibility to kind of move with what the technology is driving.
Yeah. But
And
that's
we'd hope
there.
you do that, yeah.
So at minimum, that
That's fair.
opportunity's in there. On page 24, section 7, customer service standards, which for, when we first started this, those were huge. So, I tried to front load as many customer service standards as they could possibly stomach in this agreement. So hopefully,
One question right there.
Yeah.
Your customer service people are all located within the United States?
The customer service people on the phone, we have centers throughout the United States. We also do have some sites that are
world centers.
offshore.
Okay.
All our technical people are, they're local out of Richmond. They're coming out of Richmond.
And it's not just Comcast, it's Verizon. I call for help with Verizon, and I'm sent to some foreign country, and personally, I don't like that, because I think people in America should get a job answering the phone and saying, you can do this. I know you're not making that decision, but this was my platform to say I think that's wrong. So, okay.
all right, then the next sections, 8, just reports and records, 9, insurance indemnification, which is fairly standard, 10, performance bonds. Section 11 and 12 is something that this agreement has that the prior one didn't, which are remedies and enforcement proceedings, including liquidated damages. One of the problems before was, well, if there were a problem with a customer service standard, what could somebody really do, or what could the county do? And this allows for liquidated damages at the very least. So if there's a violation of customer service standards, there's an opportunity for Comcast to pay, they're not.
And we're hoping you never have to use it.
That's right. But it gives the board more, tools in the toolbox, instead of just saying, there's not really much we can do about this. There are more options, for really, going after and getting some liquidated damages and hitting them in the wallet at the very least. And so those are set out in section 12, and then section 14 is, a lot more legalese, but in a nutshell, that is your new cable franchise ordinance proposal. Franchise agreement proposal, thank you.
And you've actually reviewed this, you just refreshed our memories here, but basically you would think the county's ready to sign this agreement now? You don't need to review it anymore?
I don't have any more legal issues, and I've met several times with Mr. Parton and Mr. Cully, and so I think we're comfortable with recommending it, but certainly if you've got any questions.
All right.
We do have to have a public hearing on it, but.
Yeah.
But other than that, yes, sir.
That's our next move, is to go to public.
Yeah.
How about a franchise fee?
Franchise fees aren't allowed anymore. There's a telecommunications tax that went into effect several years ago. So instead, there's a tax that's collected from all the customers, as I recall, but then it goes to the state, and the Richmond disperses it.
It goes to the state.
Or is that state?
It actually went into effect in 2007, and it was a initiative by the state to redefine some of the communications tax, and if you noted, some of the telecommunication taxes decreased, but it included satellite service under this umbrella. So for the purposes of the county was kept whole in that you paid a 5% franchise fee, but and that was converted to a 5% communications tax. And then the other part of it was that, with the adjustment to the telecommunications, the telephone taxes, and the taxes on satellite, in totality, the county should have been made whole on it.
operative word there was should.
And I don't, it isn't
Well, that's up to
pro-rata.
the
It's not-
state.
It is not.
Again, nothing to do with you.
It's not.
I'm keeping my word, but that was the state. The state gets the money first.
State gets money first. We actually pay, instead of paying on a quarterly or annual basis, we pay the state on a monthly basis, and then that's reimbursed to the county on a monthly basis.
Mr. Black, you had a question?
Yeah, I may have missed this, but as of right now, like the school board and the planning commission are not filmed at all, correct?
Or not what?
The school board and the planning commission meetings are not filmed at all?
No.
Correct?
Just
So,
us.
Just us. As now, will they now be filmed?
No, they're just saying they're going to broadcast it. We provide the tape,
Right.
but we would have to make a decision on filming the planning commission, and I guess the school board would have to make a decision on filming their own meetings, or we could expand the contract that we have to expand those, but I don't think that's relevant for the.
Okay, I was just kind of curious because I think a lot of people are.
I think you should bring that up at another time,
Right,
because
okay,
that is very
yes.
important.
The other thing too is, as far as the mile is concerned, do we have, is that something you have to do if there's 25 within the mile, 25 residents, you have to do that? So do you
25 homes within the mile from
right?
our contiguous, from our existing plant.
Right.
So if there are 25 homes within the mile and they're within.
Has that been reviewed? Have you reviewed that in Caroline? In other words, are you all tapped out as far as the 25 in Caroline, or are there places that you need to go because of this?
I don't believe that there is any place currently that we need to go. When we did the upgrade, we actually extended the services. And the construction department keeps a pretty close eye on what the development is in the county. So if there is a subdivision that's being added, they keep an eye on it. And I try to look at, the records to see if there's any development that's taking place. But if you know of any area that we perhaps have not captured, I definitely could go back and look.
That was my question.
was the next question. I'm sure he wants to say something.
Okay.
No, I know, but I was thinking, is it 25? Well, what I'm saying is, let's say you go 10 houses for the first 3 miles or 2 miles, but when you get to the end, you've got 400 homes there.
If someone in the 400 homes is requesting, the last person in that 400 homes is requesting service, we would look at the total mileage and the total number of homes. So 400 divided by, the 2 miles definitely meets the density.
You didn't get them. You didn't get it. Huh? It's probably 3 miles, yeah.
Yeah, Caroline Pines Terrace.
Yeah, that was one of the ones you expanded.
Yes, that's correct.
But reality, we understand it's a business decision for you. You're not going to wire the whole county because the density's not there.
Exactly.
And that's.
Yeah, it does come down to a return on the investment.
Right.
Although I do have to say the construction department tries to take a very liberal view and try to build as much as they can because that's what they're in the business to do.
Yeah. I see there's a section here that talks about business. Now, I know there's one group, in fact, the group just left a few minutes ago. Did they ever get internet or anything like that, Mr. Wilson?
At Sports Park?
Sports complex. I know the guy that ran it beforehand constantly was talking about they needed access to internet to that business over there.
I don't think he ever mentioned that.
I can certainly take the information and go back and look.
Gary's over there.
This agreement is actually for residential service. For commercial service, there is a contract that is negotiated with the business, and the terms and conditions are slightly different. The business model is a little bit different. In some ways, it's, the service that they're getting has different service level agreements, so response times, et cetera, are a little bit different. Certainly the build-out, they've got a little bit different model when it comes to the build-out. They'll actually contribute a little bit more, but then as a business, they're paying more for the services because the services are slightly different. with both television and with the internet service.
I know at one time, a couple of years ago, that's one concern they had, that they did not have
Yeah.
access to.
I don't, he didn't mention it.
Wireless stuff.
Yeah.
With all the wireless stuff, now it's probably a lot less of an issue because everybody can roll in there with a wireless card with all the cell towers and you're on.
Yeah, on the internet side, yes.
All right, Mrs. Schuler, thank you very much for coming. I think the board needs to have action as a motion to bring this to public hearing, and that would be it. So, Mr. Black, is that your motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to bring the proposed franchise agreement between Caroline County and Comcast to public hearing.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Black, seconded by Mr. Akers. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you again for all your hard work.
Thank you. I know there's several members of the board that have been around for a while, and this has been a long time in coming, and we're glad to see it all come together, and hopefully it'll be beneficial to the county and to Comcast. Thank
Okay,
you.
we look forward to it. Thanks again. All right, that takes care of agenda item number 9. Moves us to informational calendar items. Number 10, capital projects update. I believe it's Mr. Cully.
We included a new capital projects update sheet for your review. You have the high school groundbreaking Friday the 19th, 10 o'clock. And on the 23rd, our next meeting, we have the 50-mile meal in the EOC at 4:30. So that's one of the things to keep in mind. We'll be meeting at 4:30 for the 50-mile meal before our regular meeting. And on the Friday, the 26th, the State Fair opens. It's opening day at the State Fair, and then that whole following week. Next regular meeting after that is the 14th, the day after the Columbus Day holiday, in which the county offices will be closed. That's a state holiday. Has been for 28 years I've been doing it. Bowling Green Harvest Festival is the 18th. Frog Level Fall Festival is the 25th. And this is a Pam question. Have we nailed down the annual legislators get together? And that'll be on the Tuesday, the 28th, at their building, their facility over there across from the high school.
Okay, we meet again on the 23rd.
Right, at 4:30.
Okay, I'm going to ask Mrs. Hall, because I would like to have a constituents meeting sometime the first week in October or something like that. And then I have a chance to announce it again. So I'm going to work on a couple of dates with her and my schedule this week. Okay.
I need to be in
Like we're all probably going to try to do the same thing now. I should have just told you on the phone.
And then they're going to put on your dates.
I asked first. Okay.
Could I ask a question?
Yes, you may, Mr. Taylor.
On the 16th, the Columbia Gas meeting, and I don't know how many board members plan to go, but I would like to, and I was wondering if maybe we should recess to the 16th, unless board members are planning to attend. I don't know.
Well, that's
not a meeting.
That's kind of, yeah. It's
You
really just a celebration of Columbia Gas
So
extending
we
their
don't
line.
need to, okay.
Yeah, it's not we are not going to have a public discussion together. So.
Okay. It's at 5:30, but I mean, okay.
It's at 5:30, yeah. I mean, that's a good point, Mr. Taylor, because normally if we were doing something where we got together, we'd have to worry about it.
Yeah, this.
All right.
We didn't schedule it. Yeah, we can probably have a meeting. I got court that morning with my wife.
Oh.
We have a meeting at Richmond.
Okay, gentlemen? That's the way to do it. I've done that one too. All right, closing board comments, Mr. Seeley.
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Akers.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question for Mr. Shebel, if I may.
You may.
A month or so ago, I had inquired about disposing of vegetable oil. And I understood you to tell me that we had stopped it for a while because the person that was taking it, something happened and they didn't take it anymore. But we had started to receive vegetable oil at the convenience sites.
We did, and then that got pulled as well, the company that was doing it. There's an issue that they were using it in animal food, and it got contaminated, and then the company pulled out. We had another company that came in and started, and they pulled out, and we can't find anybody that will do it at no cost now. I actually went back after you had asked that question, and we looked at what it would cost to be able to do that, and it's around about $1,200 a month to be able to provide that service. Where before we were getting it done free, they gave us the tank, they would come pump it when it was full at no cost to the county. So it was quite a bit of cost in our budget, which we just couldn't absorb without having some adjustments.
So what do we tell people to do with the vegetable oil that they are disposing? Throw it in the green box, into the compactor?
That's not recommended. I mean, it is a non-hazardous material, and as a homeowner, it could be done. But when it does get up in there, it leaks out, and then it comes in as part of the leachate that we end up handling.
What do we tell them to do with it?
We haven't had that question come before since we
You
stopped
have it
taking
now, because I was approached at church by the same person that asked me 2 months ago and said he had gone and tried to dispose of some, and they said, no, we don't take it. We haven't for a long time.
But we take used motor oil.
We do take
No.
used
We take used motor oil.
That's
They
correct.
take used motor oil. We have a little tank there.
And we
for
actually
that.
get paid for that now.
But it's the vegetable oil.
Yeah, because they make it diesel.
So what
Can
do
you
what
pour
do
it
we
in
do
there?
with it? What do they do with it?
Can I pour vegetable oil in
I
there?
don't know, I was just thinking the same thing when he asked that question of whether we could put it in there, so we'll get with them. I know that they test that when they come in, and depending on if they found a contaminant, whether we get paid or not. So we try to keep up, but if they'll take that, I'll ask that question from the vendor.
Yeah. Maybe that's the answer. Because we got a tank there for motor oil, and they're processing the motor oil again, some cases making diesel fuel.
Yeah, they use all transmission fluids.
And we're pouring that in the same container? Oh, yeah, that's it.
Anything
that's good,
automotive
because
related.
There's a problem. I mean,
You're already
there are
pouring them in the
people
same
that-
container.
I'm going to look and
Yeah,
see,
economically.
because it's definitely an issue that we've gotten Dawn. We looked at just providing the service in the Dawn area because that septic system down there cannot handle grease at all, and they need a place to dispose of that. So that was the main reason why we really wanted to continue the program, at least at that facility, because there is an issue and they need to be able to dispose of that appropriately.
All right.
But we need to provide means for other people in the rest of the county to do the same thing. Even though I'm glad that the darn people are going to dispose of their
Reggie?
grease.
They could take it to Dawn, and they'll let you watch cable in there. All right, Mr. Underwood, closing board comments?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Black?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Taylor?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
And I have none either. We have a presumably short closed meeting, and we need a motion for the board to convene in closed meeting pursuant to the prospective business exemption, section 2.23711A5 of the Code of Virginia, to provide status updates to the board on several potential businesses that are considering locating in the county and about which no previous public announcement has been made. Is there a motion to that? Mr. Akers, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Underwood and Mr. Seeley, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. That motion carries unanimously. We'll take a 5-minute break, and we'll go into the...
Closed session?
Oh, thank you so much. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Seeley and seconded by Mr. Akers to come out of closed session. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. Mr. Taylor, do you certify that only those things that we went into closed session were discussed?
Also certified, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Black?
I so certify.
Mr. Underwood?
I so certify.
Mr. Akers?
I so certify.
Mr. Seeley?
I so certify.
And I so certify. There was no action to be taken from the closed meeting. County attorney would only let us talk about the things we went into. Couldn't talk about the Yankees or the Cowboys and Redskins. So, motion to adjourn to 4:30 here for the 50-mile meal.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second? Is there a second? Mr. Akers, Mr. Seeley, motion. Mr. Akers, second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously, and